The man merely swung his sword almost carelessly. Yet the one facing him, among the strongest in the kingdom, went pale at once. An instant later, the older man moved. With a single blow, the young man was sent flying off the dueling ground. "Stand down, Count Balahad. Do you understand what you have just done? Depending on how this is judged, you could be charged with regicide." Not one of them knew that the prince standing there was no longer the original master of that body. He had been taken over by a sword long ago. To understand how, we must go back several hundred years. Once there was a divine sword coveted by countless heroes. Through the long ages, it witnessed endless wars and disasters, watched heroes be born and heroes fall. Then it met the friend of its life, a boy born in a nameless village named Leon. The two of them roamed the world, threw themselves into countless battles and won glory no one else could match. And Leon became the master of an entire kingdom. But good times never last. On his deathbed, Leon asked the friend who had fought beside him all his life to look after his descendants. That is my story from when I was a sword, and the reason I am here now. Though why does it sound so noisy outside today? Has some fool with no fear of death come to touch me again? Impossible. I already belong to someone. From today on, I am the master of this sword. The guards nearby were horrified. That was a divine relic no one was permitted to touch. Grukon was stunned as well. "You are telling me this creature that looks like a pig is a prince? Leon was so majestic in his day. How did his bloodline come to this? It seems I had better take a proper look at him." With that thought, he activated the skill judgment. So he truly is my friend's descendant. Still, I cannot understand how that man ended up with a child like a pig. "Lend me your power, I beg you, great dragon-slaying sword Grukon." The guards pleaded with him. No blade was ever to be drawn inside the palace. If the king found out, every one of them would lose their heads. "Do you want to die? How dare you talk back to me? Or are you afraid I will gain Grukon's power?" He thought the boy was overthinking things and silently told him to save his strength. Just then, Idrian suddenly collapsed toward the floor. The blade ran clean through his body. The guards and maids around them froze. But the most bewildered of all was the sword. The boy was the one impaled, so why was his own consciousness beginning to blur? At this rate, for the first time in my life as a sword, I'm about to faint. Before he could finish the thought, he lost consciousness entirely. Idrian was the first in line to the throne, yet not a soul in the kingdom wanted him to inherit it. He had not received even a scrap of the royal family's talent for the sword. Only in arrogance did he have no equal. Useless, greedy, both stupid and lazy. His existence hung over the kingdom's future like a black cloud. But after he was run through by a sword and came back from the edge of death, strange rumors began to spread. Everyone said the first prince seemed different. He no longer flew into a rage at the sight of anyone. Those rumors reached Idrian's ears too, but he paid them no mind. Something far more shocking had just happened to him. I went and killed my friend's descendant, and took over his body on top of it. Who am I even supposed to explain this to? A few days later, word came that Idrian's old tutor was on his way. He immediately said that was impossible. When I was at death's door, I never saw the old man visit. The moment the words were spoken, he froze. "Who is this old man? I cannot believe you would pretend not to know me. Do you no longer wish to acknowledge that you were once my student?" So this was the pig's tutor. My head is a mess. You feel familiar, and yet I cannot place you at all. The old man had never expected anything like this either. He was about to ask more when an attendant announced that the king had arrived. He grew curious at once, thinking the father of this pig could hardly be much better. But this king does not look bad at all. He carries a few traces of my old friend. The king's face suddenly darkened. "You meet your own father and cannot even greet him. It seems not even death can change a man." The tutor stepped in. "His Highness does not seem stable yet. Perhaps we should have the royal physician examine him." The physician was summoned to his room at once, but no matter how thoroughly he examined him, nothing was wrong. The king's expression sank. "So saying you have lost your memory wipes everything clean? I once believed you were not beyond saving. Every man makes mistakes. If you knew your fault and did not repeat it, that could even be called growth. But you tell me you have forgotten everything. Is that all it takes to erase it?" The tutor motioned for the king to calm down. Perhaps his Highness truly does not remember. Then he told the attendants to care for Idrian well and left with the king. Treated like this, forget being called a prince. I am not even being counted as a person. Before he could finish the thought, The queen rushed in and pulled him tightly into her arms. She told him his memory would surely return soon, and that if it never did, that was fine too. The past hardly mattered. "It is all right if you have forgotten everything, my poor child. Look how gaunt that handsome face of yours has become." "Gaunt?" "I have looked and still cannot find the gaunt part. Never touch that dangerous thing again. I was so afraid you would never wake up." He went numb inside. A descendant of the Sword Saint's line, forbidden to touch a sword. What kind of joke is that? Besides, her son has been cold in the ground for a while now. Night fell quickly. He went numb all over again, thinking she should stop coming. This was becoming unbearably awkward. My friend asked me to look after his descendants, and I finished off one of them myself. I did not mean to, but it is done. The only thing I can do now is live on for the both of us. But what can I even do? I used to be a sword. The only thing I understand is swordsmanship. Even if this body is as fat as a pig and has no talent at all, I can rebuild my strength. I am certain of it. With that, he decided the first thing he needed was a mana heart. He drew a deep breath. Countless strands of mana flooded into his body at once. Then he startled. The mana that had just entered him vanished in the blink of an eye. Can this body not endure it? Then I will lower the output and try again. It scattered without a trace all the same. I never imagined this body could be such garbage. If only I had my old body back. I cannot stand this pitiful thing for another second. Just then, a maid's voice came from behind the door. "This is a tonic Her Majesty ordered me to bring. It is bitter, but it will do wonders for your Highness's recovery. Please understand the Queen's sincere concern for you." Then she stood there trembling, staring at him. "Give it here. I never expected there to be mana in it." He snatched up the cup at once and drank it down in great gulps. In a heartbeat, the entire bowl was empty. The maid stared, dumbstruck. This prince really does seem to have changed. He told her she could leave now. Once she was gone, he decided to try again. This time it actually worked. But the amount of mana was still tiny, and it did not last long. So he went back to find the maid who had brought the tonic. "From now on, bring me more of that." A few more days passed. Today he could finally form a mana heart. This is something I have taught others countless times. I could not go wrong with my eyes closed. But the pain hit him immediately. I never imagined forming a mana heart could hurt this much. And through pain like this, he was not allowed to lose consciousness. If he blacked out now, the mana would flow backward, and he would never possess mana again for the rest of his life. He gathered every scrap of will he had. The mana raging inside him slowly came under control. Guided by him, it flowed along the path of the heart and merged into it. Before long, the mana heart was complete. A wave of satisfaction surged straight to the top of his head. Suddenly, a status window popped open in front of him. He startled at the sight. Is this not the authority I held as a sword? Why can it appear now? Then the window read restoring connection, followed by connection restored but state extremely unstable. Most authorities currently unavailable. The third eye and third ear authorities may now be used to an extremely limited degree. You will see more clearly and hear more clearly. I am not even a sword anymore, and I can still use these. With that, he turned his gaze to the great tree outside the window. The scene in his eyes magnified in an instant. His hearing reached far beyond what it had. Before, I would never have caught sounds outside the door. It seems the absolute senses I had as a sword have returned. Then the window announced, mana depleted, authority use forcibly terminated. A wave of dizziness slammed into his skull. For now, I can squeeze out only a sliver of mana, enough to see a little farther or eavesdrop through a door. But if I can expand my mana capacity, everything changes. My absolute senses will come back sooner or later. Right after that, his stomach growled. Why on earth do humans have to eat? The queen came to his room again today. The moment he saw her, his face said he had lost the will to live. Here comes today's punishment. Then a man walked up in front of him. The queen asked whether he recognized him, and he shook his head. His uncle decided he really had lost his memory. Otherwise, he could not look at me and remain this unbowed. Brother, whatever he was before, he is still your only nephew. His uncle said there was nothing to change. His life before was hardly worth anything anyway. If you truly want my help, the only help I can give is to train him properly. Beyond that, I can do nothing. Best not to hold on to any other unrealistic hopes. The queen said that was enough, and their bargain was settled. His head filled with question marks. Are you two not siblings? Before he could finish the thought, his uncle was already standing right in front of him. A moment later, he was thrown out onto the training ground. You do not imagine I will treat you like a prince, do you? Everything goes through my approval. If you please me, I might teach you a scrap of my family's swordsmanship, and if you do not..." He found these people a little absurd. I was once the master of the man who founded this kingdom. With that, he straightened his attitude. "Do you dare to make a wager with me? In half a year, I will make you acknowledge me. If I fail, I will do anything you say, but if I succeed, you must grant me one wish." His uncle found the amnesiac boy rather amusing. I could use some entertainment anyway. Very well, I accept. And so his training began. He had spoken with such confidence, but this body, fat as a pig, was beyond words. He channeled every drop of mana he had, planning to burn off the excess fat by running. The man watching startled. "This useless prince can use mana." He hurriedly called him back. "Do not tell me you have formed a mana heart." He puffed up with pride at once. "You mean this? I made it by accident without even noticing. Now that you have seen it, you do not regret our wager, do you?" "What nonsense are you talking? Do you truly not know where you went wrong? Where did you even learn to form a mana heart?" The boy had only bragged a little, and it was enough to enrage his uncle. Right then, he learned from his uncle's mouth that the mana heart was now a crude technique studied only by the lowest ranks of mercenaries. He anxiously demanded to know what that meant. The next moment, a mana chain appeared in his uncle's hand. Without another word, the man attacked. The mana around him vanished instantly. He froze. "Do you understand now? A mana chain has the property of shattering a mana heart. It is also easier to form and far more stable. That is why the mana heart fell into complete decline several hundred years ago. He was left reeling. Has the age of the mana heart truly ended?" He began tearing through every book he could find and reached one conclusion. "My lord, the times have changed. Today's mages weave magic arrays, and knights weave mana chains to gather mana. A knight's rank is counted by the number of chains he can weave: single, double, triple, quadruple, and the highest so far, quintuple. But what made him most curious was a name that appeared in the books. If I remember right, he was a very strange man. What he used was neither swordsmanship nor magic. A pity I have forgotten what became of him." Soon the next day arrived. Early in the morning, he was already at the training ground. "You went to the library last night to look things up, did you not? Now you know how foolish your choice was." He only laughed. "I do not see that I was wrong at all." His uncle said it was fine if he refused to admit it. He had never amounted to much anyway. Even among mercenaries, there are all sorts of ranks and divisions. No matter how much nonsense you talk, reality will not change. Mercenaries have produced men like you before. Centuries ago, they were heroes of their day. But do you know what became of them? They all died. Many spent their entire lives unable to break past the second chain. Are you telling me you are different from them? If you manage it, I will accept your mother's request and become your guardian." He burst out laughing. "I hardly want you as my guardian. Besides, are you truly qualified to be one?" His uncle's face went dark. "Are you questioning my qualifications as a guardian? I am a count of this kingdom, supreme commander of the Northern Army, Grand Marshal of the Black Lance Cavalry, one of the 5 silver lions who serve His Majesty, and a man who has woven 4 mana chains." The words had barely left him when the ground shook violently. "I am Val of House Balahad. Now answer me. Am I qualified to be your guardian? The presence really is fearsome, and the titles are genuinely intimidating. But could you rein it in? At this rate, my body is finished." Just then, the royal guards moved. Their blades pointed straight at his uncle. "Stand down! You still have not answered me. Am I qualified now?" And so his training officially began. By the end of it, he did not have the strength left to walk. "This body is only 15 years old. Could I report him for bullying a minor?" He returned to his room. The royal physician from before was already waiting there. He asked in confusion why the physician had come. "Her Majesty sent me to treat you, Your Highness." "Let us begin the treatment, Your Highness." He startled. "If you heal me, will today's suffering not have been for nothing?" With that, he shoved the physician straight out the door. The guards agreed the young master really did seem changed. On the training ground, he had looked quite tough. His stomach growled again. "Let us eat first." A maid brought his meal to the room at once. He decided the man who had barged in was utterly ill-mannered. Besides, who is this? Just then, a guard beside him said, "That is His Highness the Third Prince. I heard something happened to you, so I thought I would visit." But looking at you now, you seem perfectly fine. If you have something to say it plainly. If you came only to pick a fight, go find something useful to do." The boy shook with rage, but forced it down and stated his purpose. "I came only because I heard about your wager with Count Balahad. They say you must duel a double-chain knight. So I want to ask, may I be your opponent?" The dragon-slaying sword form of centuries past. Now the most basic sword form in the kingdom, but that man understood exactly what value lay inside it. Even though the world had discarded the most important thing in the dragon-slaying sword form, the will to slay dragons. "I will pick it up again." With that, the third prince left. He could not understand what was wrong with the boy. Why does every descendant of Leon turn out like this? The guard advised him it would be best not to accept the third prince's offer. He asked why. The guard explained that the third prince was only 14, yet had shown extraordinary talent for the sword from childhood and was already a double-chain knight. Just then, a maidservant walked in carrying an armful of letters. She said they were all addressed to him. He was puzzled. Why the sudden enthusiasm for me? With that, he began reading through them. But after a few, he stopped. They were all invitations to duel. So they see this as a lawful chance to beat up the bastard that I am. But do I really look that weak? Every stray cat and dog wants to climb over my head. With that, he looked at the maidservant. "Write down for me carefully the name of every person who sent one of these." The next day came quickly. "Next, I will teach you a little swordsmanship, or words to that effect." He thought the old man's temper really was odd. "If you mean to teach me the sword, could you not simply hand me one?" With that, he bent down to pick up the wooden sword from the ground. Pain shot through his entire body. The sight left his uncle stunned. "Do not tell me you refused healing magic after yesterday's training." He nodded. "Healing magic restores muscle to its original state. If I accept it, yesterday's suffering is wasted." His uncle had not expected the boy to have grown this tough, and quietly began to see him differently. Aloud, he only said, "Suit yourself. Now watch closely. This is a basic technique every knight in the kingdom knows, so I do not intend to demonstrate it twice." With that, his uncle gripped his longsword and ran through the basic forms in front of him. Yet even in a plain, unadorned basic form, in his hands, wind rose wherever the blade passed. He stood rooted to the spot. "Is this truly only a basic form?" His uncle clicked his tongue, displeased. "It is basic swordsmanship, so I have not used it in a long while. But it is faithful to the fundamentals, which makes it the easiest form there is to learn. Though given your talent, even this may be too difficult for you." The words caught in his throat. Who am I even supposed to complain to? Who could have guessed that the dragon-slaying sword form used by the kingdom's founder is now a beginner's drill? Is this truly an ordinary sword lesson? I have not read many books, so do not lie to me. His uncle added that learning this alone would not win the wager. "Once you have the basics, have your mother hire you another teacher." He replied that he would not learn any other swordsmanship. Mastering this one would be enough. His uncle thought the boy really did seem different now. If only the hand holding the sword were not trembling, it would look the part. His sword training began. The dragon-slaying sword form of old, treated now as a daily drill. Much as I hate to admit it, perhaps that is only nature taking its course. Because their dragon-slaying sword has lost the will to slay dragons, those who threw away the mana heart will never again know the true worth of the dragon-slaying sword form. At that thought, the force behind his swings turned wild. His uncle stopped him at once. "Your movements are clumsy. Have you already forgotten what I showed you? Loosen your body, draw the power from your core. And from your legs." The moment his uncle finished, he rose to his feet, his face set with resolve. "I will prove to the world that the dragon-slaying sword form is no relic to be thrown away." Training time slipped past and a week was gone. From morbidly obese to merely fat. Through hard training, he grew accustomed to his body. The trait clumsy has vanished. Training efficiency will increase significantly. A month went by in a blink. Today, the window suddenly announced, "Obstruction to mana perception removed. Trait mana perception has been generated." His body felt weightless at once. Every swing was more natural than the last, stronger and more perfect. He was overjoyed. Then the wooden sword in his hand snapped in two. His uncle motioned for him to look ahead. The training post before them had been split by lightning at some point. Threads of electricity still crawled across it. "I do not know if you are mad training in weather like this. If what you were holding had not been a wooden sword, you would be charred through by now." but he could not hear a word his uncle was saying. A moment later, he collapsed unconscious. Then the window announced, "State of high concentration released." Trait high concentration has been generated. That man's very first battle left everyone present astonished, because until then, he had been nothing but a useless prince everyone despised. Yet under the assault of a single-chain knight, he was completely at ease. He finally woke from unconsciousness. "I cannot believe I trained with a sword until I passed out. The quality of this body is truly terrible. Back then, I was a sword that led countless heroes. We won glory beyond counting, and I became one of the founders of this kingdom. But in the eyes of others, I was always an outsider. So I lost myself in that feeling. The feeling of taking all that effort and sweat and making it my own. At this rate, this body will collapse before long. It has been over a month since I formed the mana heart, and I have gathered a fair amount." With that, he closed his eyes and entered a state of inner observation. Your body can now withstand more mana. The mana heart has expanded. Due to the expansion of the mana heart, your physical structure has undergone a change. As the window faded, he found his mana far richer than before. I never thought it would be this easy. He picked up the iron sword beside him. The instant he gripped it, a spiritual energy coiled along the blade. Delight crossed his face. "With this, basic swordsmanship will give me no trouble." He went to the training ground to test his new ability, only for his uncle to stop him with a heavy sigh. I do not understand what is wrong with him. Sighing when my form is poor is one thing, but I have not even started and he is already sighing. His uncle explained that he was sighing because the kingdom was full of rumors about the wager. Find an opponent soon and end this farce. He answered that he had chosen his opponent long ago. "But I still cannot face a double-chain opponent head-on, so may I fight a few single-chain opponents first?" His uncle magnanimously said, "Suit yourself." "Is what I asked for ready?" Carl nodded. "I have prepared it as instructed. This is the list of those who sent you dueling invitations. His Highness presumably intends to fight them as practice matches. But every one of these men bears you a grudge, so I am somewhat worried." He only smiled and told him not to worry. "I have already thought of something." Then he turned to his uncle. "You heard all of that, so will you referee for me? It is hardly an outrageous request. You will do me this favor, will you not, uncle?" A few days later, the day of the first duel finally came. The first challenger was Taylor of House Telheim. By now, he had arrived outside the palace where the prince lived. "This time, I will avenge the humiliation the first prince inflicted on my house years ago." Taylor strode into the training ground full of ambition. "Greetings, Your Highness. I am Taylor, second son of House Telheim, an apprentice knight of the first chain, trained in the swordsmanship of House Telheim." "No need for that, a knight. You look pathetic." Taylor bristled instantly. He is still as crude and arrogant as he was years ago. Just then, his uncle stepped in and motioned for Taylor to sheath his sword. "I understand how you feel, but the duel has not begun." At the sight of his idol, the young man's face flushed bright. "To meet you is the greatest honor of my life." Watching this, the prince's face soured at once. "This boy was nowhere near that excited when he greeted me. An outsider would think you were the prince." His uncle replied, "And whose fault is it that you chose to be a bastard?" Then he motioned for both of them to take their positions. The air between them turned taut as a drawn bowstring. Taylor charged straight at him, sword in hand. Just before reaching him, he leapt, bringing the blade down hard. The prince gathered his mana without the slightest panic, and blocked Taylor's strike as if it were nothing. Taylor startled. What he condensed was not a mana chain, but a mana heart. But how could a mana heart block a strike backed by a mana chain? He said plainly, "Perhaps because you are too weak." With that, a surging aura wrapped around the longsword in his hand. The blade itself began to hum. The watching guards startled. He had just used sword resonance, something only veteran knights could manage. The most shocked of all was Taylor. Shouting that it was impossible, he threw himself into a furious assault. Every strike was blocked. He grew frantic. The prince was not comfortable either. All the mana in his body was on the verge of flowing backward. He looked at Taylor. "You said you were the second son of House Telheim, yes? Could you hold still for a moment? Just a moment." With that, he closed his eyes. His consciousness sank into the depths of his soul. The shape of an enormous dragon slowly appeared. About to awaken. The Dragon Slayer's heart has been activated. Its energy has successfully merged with the dragon-slaying sword. The sleeping will to slay dragons has awakened. An overwhelming pressure swept across the entire training ground. This does not feel like fighting a person at all. It cannot even be called a fight. It is simply placing the smallest of creatures before the apex predator. He had just awakened the sleeping dragon-slaying will inside him. An invisible pressure fell over everyone present. Even his uncle could not understand why the boy's aura had turned so dangerous and so wicked all at once. How could Taylor possibly survive that strike? In a heartbeat, the man was standing right in front of him. I was the one who told him to stop me. But before he could finish, he passed out. He woke again. I thought that blow would shatter my mana heart outright. My uncle's strength really is something else. Just then his uncle came in. He asked, curious, what exactly the boy had done. Why did your body suddenly fill with such a wicked aura? And the swordsmanship you used. I have never taught you anything like it. He explained that he was only being faithful to the nature of the sword. His uncle said that was nonsense. You have never seen a real battle, so what can you know of the sword's nature and the killing intent that filled you? Do you believe the nature of the sword is killing intent? At that his uncle sighed helplessly, though that too is a truth. He was mildly surprised. He had expected a long lecture. Hearing himself teased, his uncle laughed and said he was a soldier, not a knight. I pursue the path of victory, unlike knights who pursue justice. But your sword goes too far. Killing intent that heavy will stop you telling friend from foe. So that is why you came to correct me. His uncle nodded. From now on, I will keep an eye on you. If you feel better, go back to training. 3 days passed. You have worked hard these 3 days. Taylor did not understand why the prince was saying this to him. Though these 3 days he had been forced to block while enduring uncontrollable killing intent, which had indeed been brutal. The prince went on. A pity you never once defeated me. A pity you cannot. Then he called over the maidservant waiting nearby. Looking at the chest before him, Taylor asked in confusion what it was. Compensation for you, the prince answered. I hear I did many terrible things to you in the past. I do not know whether this can make up for the wrongs I committed, but please take it to Baron Telheim. You are still here. Do you intend to stay for dinner? And so the training sessions with Taylor came to an end. Once they were over, all manner of rumors spread through the kingdom. Many went to the man himself to ask about the duel, but Taylor said only that he had nothing to disclose. They immediately decided they had figured it out. The royal family must have paid him to keep quiet. Of course, the rumors reached the prince too. I never imagined these people had such imagination. His uncle said he was in no position to talk about anyone. He was exasperated. Could you stop bringing up old business? Then he turned to the next sparring partner. When you go out, could you spread the result of the duel? But then another rumor started. Today, the maidservant reported a new one. Your Highness, did you truly threaten Kate? He had no words. He decided to turn his frustration into fuel and throw himself into training. Carl reported that today's visitor was the last one. Is the last one another apprentice knight? There is nothing left for me to learn from them. Carl replied that today's visitor was a true knight, the prodigy of the Knight Order. Anticipation lit his face at once, the prodigy of the Iron Lion Knights, no less. Before long, Arwen arrived. The prodigy knight of the Iron Lions. The rumors about her had spread across the whole kingdom. The flower on the cliff, the rose with thorns, the woman who breaks every man's heart. The guards decided the young master was impressive in his own way to summon a beauty like that as a sparring partner. Though if the prince were humiliated by such a beauty, would that not be hilarious? The guard beside him thought his friend was thinking far too small. That would not be humiliation. That would be a reward. The man had merely proposed a wager and gained the beauty the whole kingdom wanted and could not have. Knights of the Iron Lion Order. They were nothing like any of the opponents before. Arwen currently held only the title of apprentice knight, but that was solely because she had joined recently. Her talent had long been recognized by all, and the Order's leadership had already reserved a full membership for her. She was the one who had submitted the request to duel. Carl said it was probably due to a small misunderstanding in the past. He understood at once. Another masterpiece by the body's previous owner. But what exactly had he done? Carl kept his mouth shut. So he turned to the maidservant. You tell me, what exactly did I do? She sighed helplessly. Your Highness once harassed Lady Arwen at a banquet. You demanded that Lady Arwen become your personal maid. And when she refused, you insulted her and called her a worthless thing. He was staggered. Why was that damned lunatic in such a hurry to grow up? Before long, Arwen stepped onto the training ground. She bowed. "It has been a long time, Your Highness. You have not changed at all." He replied that in fact he had changed a great deal. "Perhaps you should take a closer look." The moment he said it, Arwen actually began studying him carefully. Just then his uncle arrived as well. Seeing him, Arwen stepped forward to introduce herself. "I am Arwen Kogan of the Iron Lion Knights. My deepest respects to Count Balahad." His uncle nodded, satisfied. "Be careful out there. When the prince swings a sword, he is like a rabid dog. Enough talk from me." Then he motioned for them to take their positions. At his word, Arwen drew first and charged straight at the prince. At first he did not take her seriously. He only thought her movements were decent. The next instant, a single strike from Arwen left him with internal injuries. "I truly cannot make sense of this woman. Beautiful is one thing, but this strong as well? At this rate, I lose for certain." With that, he activated the Dragon Slayer's heart. His entire aura shifted abruptly. The sharp-eyed Arwen caught the change at once. She fell back decisively to open the distance. "I cannot understand what has happened to him. Not only has his aura changed, even the sword in his hand seems different, though it is plainly the same blade as before." He activated Judgment, his authority from his days as a sword. Swordsmanship aptitude, rank A. Combat technique, rank B. Mana perception, rank B. Traits, sword prodigy, competitive spirit, peerless beauty, hard outside and soft within, pure of heart. I never expected her to possess the sword prodigy trait. Arwen had already returned to her stance. The two locked together again in moments. The fight ran from midday to dusk. Both were exhausted, and still there was no victor. His uncle stepped out and called it for the day, telling them to continue tomorrow. The prince clicked his tongue in irritation. "I was one step from ending it. I have not even used my finishing move." Arwen replied. What a coincidence, she had been about to use hers as well. "So do you wish to keep going?" Refusing to be outdone, Arwen said that if he wished it, she would see it through. "Allow this old servant to treat you, Your Highness. There seems to be a bruise here as well." At that very moment, Arwen was stealing a glance at him. Their eyes met. Each of them assumed they had been caught peeking at the other. The next instant, both whipped their heads away. By the second day, neither could gain the upper hand. Then came the third day. The guards had never expected the two to be so evenly matched. By all reason, this fight should have been a one-sided affair with no suspense at all. We have all seen the first prince's skill, but I have heard plenty of rumors about Arwen too. Just then the prince said he had something to say before they began. Arwen immediately replied that she would not accept an apology. He told her she was overthinking it. Would this not be better? Whoever loses grants the winner one wish. The guards startled. Has the first prince still not given up on Lady Arwen? Arwen was stunned as well. He realized at once that they had leapt to conclusions. I mean that if the winner demands an apology, the loser apologizes. If the winner demands they kneel, the loser kneels. Then he looked at her. What do you say? Arwen had not expected that to be his meaning. So if I win, I could make him kneel and apologize to me? She answered gravely that she was a member of the Iron Lion Knights, sworn to the crown, and though only an apprentice, she could not be so disrespectful to His Highness. But if Your Highness permits it? At his uncle's command, the duel formally began. The two locked together at once. But Arwen quickly noticed something wrong. Not only was his aura stronger than before, his blade was far faster. Has he been hiding his true strength this whole time? With that, she hurriedly fell back to open the distance. The next instant, she startled. In the blink of an eye, he was standing right in front of her. A moment later, the longsword in her hand was cut clean through. They had been deadlocked before, and this time it was over almost instantly. Arwen could not believe it. The guards were stunned as well. The most shocked was his uncle. That speed was beyond even a full knight. He walked up to her. It seems I have won this fight. Arwen Kagain, from now on you belong to me. The first knight this man ever gained. Was the very beauty the whole kingdom wanted and could not have. The guards startled, so the first prince truly has not given up on Lady Arwen. As for Arwen, she wondered whether she had misjudged him. Hearing the rumors about this prince, she had been deeply worried. But he had never once flown into a rage over nothing as the rumors claimed. He was somewhat arrogant, true, but a little temper was normal in one born to royalty. And in training, he worked with unusual intensity, session after session, until he nearly collapsed. At that, Arwen laughed in sheer anger. Is this what your highness wants? He nodded without hesitation. You may not yet be able to beat a worthless prince. But that does not matter. What I want is your potential and your future. I need a knight who truly follows me, not a knight who protects me because the crown ordered it, but a knight who belongs to Idrian alone. In my eyes, you have great talent for the sword. So will you become the knight of Idrian alone? Arwen froze. All her life, her dream had been to become a knight. She had become the knight she always dreamed of, yet no one had ever treated her as a true knight. Even after defeating every apprentice knight there was, she could never shake the name of a pretty ornament, never become a knight in truth. But the man before her seemed different somehow. He says what he wants is my potential and my future as a knight. But are those his true words? At that thought, Arwen let out a long breath. I can accept, but will you promise me one thing? Do not treat me as a woman. Treat me as a knight. If you can do that, I will follow every arrangement you make. He nodded without a moment's hesitation. That is hardly difficult for me. The moment he finished, Arwen dropped to one knee. I am Arwen, eldest daughter of House Kogine. I swear fealty to my lord Idrian, and offer my sword and the remainder of my life to his highness. He nodded, satisfied, then laid the longsword in his hand on her shoulder. I, Idrian, lawful heir of House Leon, in the name of Idrian, hereby name you knight. And so he gained the first knight of his own. By the next day, the news had spread to every street corner of the kingdom. Swearing fealty to a wastrel like the young master? There must be something behind this. What do you think? Could it be that the first prince cannot openly take her as a concubine, so he uses a knight's oath as a screen? That sounds likely. The whole affair was strange from the start. She had no reason at all to join that suspicious duel arranged by that scoundrel. And so the strange rumors spread. He decided the people spreading them had truly lost their minds. Do these people not have a single decent thing to do? Do I really look like the sort of villain with a belly full of poison? The question left Carl silent, deciding it was best not to answer. Then he remembered something and called out to the raging prince. I have thought a long time about what your highness said that day. He blinked in confusion. What day? What words? Carl explained, the words on the day of the duel. Which words, exactly? Once he asked, he remembered. Perhaps those words displeased you, but what I said was also the truth. Then he teased, if you wish, you could swear fealty to me as well. If I said I was willing to swear fealty, would you accept? He shook his head without hesitation. Carl did not understand why he was refused outright. He explained that raising Carl would be no fun at all. Just then, the maidservant outside brought in a letter. I did not expect the king to lift my confinement this quickly. I truly cannot understand what goes on in that king's head. Carl said being allowed out was surely something to be glad about. He sighed helplessly. Even if I leave the crown prince's palace, there is nowhere to go. And I know no one, so there is no one to invite out. Just then, the maidservant sorting the letters startled. He asked in confusion what was wrong. She said an invitation had just arrived. He was more confused still. Is that invitation some man-eating beast that it startles you so? And why would Alfie send me an invitation? Are we close? She suggested your highness had better read it himself. What in the world is the Special Young Nobles' social club? The name alone says it is no decent place. She explained that it was a social gathering he had once been a member of. I was a member of somewhere that strange? She nodded without hesitation. In the past, whenever you had a free moment, you went there to drown yourself in wine. He sighed helplessly. My training keeps me busy enough. I will not be attending that bizarre gathering. The moment he said it, he stopped. Because on the invitation appeared the name of House Ely, curiosity took him at once. That house fell into decline 100 years ago, but perhaps I ought to look into it. With that, he told the maidservant he would attend the banquet. She nodded and said she would prepare everything he needed. The man gained another knight, and this time a top prodigy with rank S talent for the sword. 4 months passed. After all that unbroken effort, his obese constitution had vanished completely. Your measurements have dropped by more than half. The praise made him glow. From now on, all my formal wear goes to you. He did not understand. I am only going out to enjoy myself. Is all this fanfare necessary? As though afraid the world would not know that bastard had left the house. With that, he looked at the maid before him. After months of training, his senses had grown extremely sharp. He asked in confusion where the scar on her shoulder had come from. Asking around, he learned it was yet another achievement of the body's former owner. I truly cannot understand how the previous owner survived to adulthood. He did so many terrible things to the people right beside him. Besides, this maid seems to have served me a very long time, and I do not even know her name. So he asked her what she was called. She answered that she was Adelia, of House Bavaria. At that name, he startled. A figure surfaced in his mind at once. Even after all this time, thinking of her still sent chills through him. But why was she so powerful? And why do her descendants have almost no record at all in the noble registry? His instincts told him something was deeply wrong here. Just then, Carl called from outside the carriage that they had arrived. He could not help remarking, "Your timing is impeccable." Carl blinked, not knowing what he had done wrong. He answered helplessly, "Ignorance is bliss." Then he turned to Adelia behind him. "When I have finished my business, we will have a proper talk." Adelia was bewildered, wondering what they had to talk about. Carl was equally lost, wondering what those two had done in the carriage. Just then a man came up to him. "Bernardo of House Ely greets Lord Idrian. A few months apart, and your highness has grown so thin, you must have suffered greatly." He had not expected this man, who looked exactly like a street thug, to be a descendant of House Ely. And at once a bold idea surfaced in his mind. "Are you feeling unwell?" He shook his head lightly. "I only feel that coming here was the right choice. Today will surely be very interesting." Bernardo's head filled with question marks. Riddlers should just drop dead. The two of them entered the banquet. In the past, he came here to carouse with noble ladies, and now he sat perfectly upright, his very presence utterly changed. Just then a drunken man staggered up to him. "I hear your highness has claimed the knight they call the Flower of the Iron Lions. She is lovely enough in armor. I cannot imagine how enchanting she is out of it." "She must taste rather good. Had I known she was that easy to claim, I would have moved sooner." He responded by asking the man whether he had any other siblings. The man did not understand why he was being asked, but answered that he had a younger brother. The moment he finished, a fist landed square on his face. The punch left him reeling. "Why did your highness strike me? Are we not good brothers?" He laughed. "The good brother you speak of takes me for an idiot. I can tolerate you thinking me an idiot. What I will not tolerate is you treating me like one." The whole hall froze. What is wrong with the young master today? 2 mouthfuls and he is drunk? How else could he spout such nonsense? Another blow sent the man flying more than 10 paces. The young nobles stood dumbstruck, unable to grasp what had come over the first prince. "Did I not tell you already? Today will be very interesting." No one understood what had made the first prince suddenly lose his mind. The hall fell dead silent. Everyone feared they would be next. Then he spoke. "You still have a younger brother, so your family line will not end." And with that, he brought his heel down hard between the man's legs. The silent hall erupted with a scream that tore the air. Every nobleman present felt his own groin tighten, as though that heel had come down on him. Then his voice rang out again. "From this moment, your brother is the heir to your house." Then he turned his eyes on Bernardo. That single look terrified Bernardo half to death, certain he would be the next to lose his manhood. "Go outside and bring in my royal knights." Pardoned at last, Bernardo hurriedly said he would go at once. Once he was gone, the hall fell silent again, everyone afraid one wrong move would make them the next unlucky soul. Then he spoke again. "All the women in this room, leave." One man tried to slip out with them, but he said coldly, "I told only the women to leave." "Or do you wish to become a woman?" The scene from moments ago flashed through the man's mind. "Do you know why I did this? Kneel. Showing me no respect at all would be one thing. But you dared to insult my knight to my face. In a case like this, what charge could be brought against you?" Carl stepped in and said they could be charged with insulting the royal family. Beyond that, they have challenged royal authority, so treason may be added. The young nobles went numb, never imagining a charge that heavy would be laid on them. Then Carl's voice came again. "Give the order, your highness." Days later, the king heard of it, disbelief written all over his face. "Insulting the royal family and treason? I cannot believe you dared use such grand pretext to arrest 14 sons of noble houses. They are nothing but stains on their own houses. I cleaned those stains off for them. They should be thanking me. All I need do is write to their brothers and sisters and make them the heirs. Do you think those nobles would still hate me then?" The king was left without an answer. After a long silence, he simply told him to withdraw at once. Leaving there, he went to find Adelia. Seeing the smile on his face, Adelia felt calamity descending on her. He had not expected such a kindly smile to frighten her so badly. It seems the previous owner tormented her plenty. That bastard truly deserved to die. The matter from the carriage was still unfinished. She is plainly her descendant, and yet knows nothing at all about her. Everything, all of it, has vanished without a trace. With that, he activated the skill judgment. He startled at what he saw. That she had rank S talent for the sword I had already guessed, given she is that war maniac's descendant. But she has not one trait capable of restraining that madness. Is it truly all right for me to loose such madness upon the world? The thought gave him a splitting headache. But whatever the case, I must try. Rank S talent is far too rare. Besides, I can make use of another of her traits, the slave's temperament. She feels overwhelming joy simply at the existence of the master she serves. At that thought, he asked Adelia outright whether she would swear fealty to him. Adelia froze. She could not for the life of her understand why he would say such a thing. Is being a personal maid not enough? Must it now extend to warming his bed? He told her she was overthinking it. I only want you to become a knight. Adelia panicked at once. Such a favor was far too great. I will make your house prosper again. In return, you must swear fealty to me and serve me as you would a master. Adelia had never imagined a pie would truly fall from the sky and land squarely on her head. Still anxious, she asked again whether it was true, whether swearing fealty would truly make her house prosper. He nodded firmly. If you wish, I can even summon them all to the capital, so you may see them whenever you like. And so he gained his second knight. I am Adelia, eldest daughter of House Bavaria. At this moment I swear fealty to His Highness Prince Idrian. I take you as my master and devote my life to you. He nodded, satisfied. I never imagined it would be this easy to gain a subordinate with rank S talent. From this moment you will obey my orders without condition. With that, he laid a hand on her head. After a few strokes, he sensed something was off. Why on earth is this woman blushing? That woman was plainly holding a sword for the first time in her life, and already she had stunned his uncle, and even planted in him the idea of stealing her away. A few days later, he heard all manner of bizarre rumors. Some said the flower of the Iron Lions had sworn to him under duress. Others said he had beaten those young nobles in order to seize their beautiful concubines. This is no knight order. He is plainly using the pretext of a knight order to build a harem. He could not understand what was wrong with this world. I took in one knight, and in the eyes of others, it is nothing of the sort. The gossip outside was one thing, but even the king believed he had fallen into depravity. His uncle thought he had given up as well. Even that idiot third prince dared lecture him. I do not understand why one small act sends rumors flying everywhere. Could there be a spy at my side? Just then the maidservant reported that the queen was on her way. It seems she is coming to lecture me too. But the first thing she said upon entering was, "It seems my son has finally reached that age. Then my duty as a mother is perfectly clear. Leave everything to me. I will find you a suitable partner." With that, she hurried off. He went numb all over. Let whatever happens happen. He soon summoned Adelia, intending to awaken her mana. Adelia could not believe she would have mana of her own. The next moment, a magical light coiled around him. Though this world has forgotten the Sword Marquis, I remember every last thing about her, from the footprints she left behind, to the sword light that once danced at her fingertips. And in this moment, that golden mana pulsing in splendor is exactly like her heart. The process did not last long before it was over. Adelia felt her mana seemed different from other people's. He explained that no two constitutions are alike. Next, I will teach you how to forge a mana heart. Practice on your own whenever you have time. But before he could finish, he collapsed face down on the floor. I never imagined forging one mana heart for someone else would nearly finish me. I truly cannot stand this pitiful body another second. Adelia asked in confusion why he did so much for her. He answered, "Only because you are mine. I will serve you faithfully for the rest of my life. Then say the word master for me." To his surprise, Adelia said it without a moment's thought. Sweat the size of beans rolled down his rough face. Is it truly all right for me to loose a demon child like this upon the world? Outside, the arrested nobles had been taken away, and no one was permitted to see them before the trial began. He thought these people were making far too much of it, such a trivial matter, and they convene an entire tribunal. Truly, the nobles of this country have not one worthwhile thing to do. Then he turned and asked Adelia how her mana heart training was coming along. She said her mana heart was now completely stable. He nodded, satisfied. Then from today you train with me. Go change your clothes and meet me at the training ground. And stop fiddling with those things. You are a knight now. You should be handling a blade. He went out to the training ground. Before long his uncle arrived as well. What is the point of training this girl? He answered that she was his knight now. Is it not perfectly normal for me to train my own knight? His uncle flared up at once. You think the title of knight is for anyone to wear? Playing dress-up in private is one thing, but you dare bring her onto the training ground. He found his uncle more insufferable by the day. Adelia came up and reported that she had finished 10 laps. He handed her a wooden sword. Now our training truly begins. With that, he began demonstrating in front of her. When he finished, he told her to try it herself. Adelia thought someone like her could not possibly manage it. But she raised the sword and swung. His uncle startled at the sight, unable to believe this was truly a maid who had never held a blade. He had not expected her to imitate it so well after watching only once. He thought this woman's modesty was starting to sound like showing off. Just then his uncle exclaimed that he had never expected the girl to have such talent. He immediately staked his claim. She is mine, not something you may covet. His uncle replied that the boy was rather amusing. A few months with a sword and you think you can rein her in? With that, he unleashed an overwhelming pressure. He immediately drove the mana heart within him to resist. If even I cannot rein her in, then no one in this world can. I am not the useless prince I once was. I once slew a great troll out of thirst only to drink its marrow. Even a great dragon barring my path was cut down by a single stroke of mine. I am Grukon, the first divine sword. Nothing and no one that stands in my path ends well. The next moment, mana equal to his uncle's erupted from his entire body. Blood-red pupils stared straight at the man. I will say this to you one last time, she is mine. The man had merely sung a single song and left his uncle stunned where he stood. Because what he had chanted was the martial soul hymn, a song capable of amplifying a mana heart. An overwhelming pressure descended on the two men in the training ground. But the moment he finished, he realized his perception of the outside world was fading, as though his body were sinking into the deep sea. Before his eyes lay only darkness. The only thing he could feel was a cold wrapped around his whole body. This is a feeling I only ever had as a sword. Could this be an ill omen? An omen that this body is about to be devoured entirely by Grukon? Just then, his uncle's shout hauled him back out of the abyss. Do you understand what you are doing? Even the most ordinary knight can save dozens of soldiers' lives on a battlefield. If I raise this child properly, she will one day become a knight of the highest order. He had not expected the man's attempt to poach her to be for that reason. One can only say he is worthy of his name, worthy of being supreme commander of the northern frontier. But so what? His uncle could not believe it. You dare say so what? Even if she could save countless of your own people, you intend to remain beyond saving? With that, he made to go and request her from the king. Just then, Adelia spoke. My body and my heart already belong to His Highness. I would not go with you even in death. His uncle's face filled with bitter disappointment. He is a scoundrel of a prince, that is one thing. Do you not know better either? Lord Uncle, do you not understand human speech? And besides, it seems you have not taught me anything in a very long time. Or was your goal from the start only to help me lose weight? If so, please leave soon. And if you still wish to come to my palace... His uncle clicked his tongue in irritation. Only a fool would want to come to your rundown palace. Yet for all that, the very next day he came to the palace again. Seeing the sight before him, he brightened at once. Just then, the ring of a blade sounded through the courtyard. His uncle startled, sweat the size of beans rolling down his rough face. I knew the girl was a sword prodigy, but not a prodigy like this. How long has it been? And she has learned sword resonance already. The prince startled inwardly as well, but he kept his face straight. A little slower than I expected, but you have done very well. Just then, his uncle came up to the two of them, his face full of fury. He demanded to know why the prince had taught Adelia a petty trick like the mana heart. She could have walked a far better path with potential you cannot imagine, and you have ruined all of it. His face darkened at once. He motioned for Carl behind him to escort his uncle out. His uncle said there was no need for such courtesy. Adelia did not understand why the two had suddenly begun to quarrel. Is what I learned truly only a petty trick? Otherwise, why would he say that? He explained that the mana heart was no petty trick at all. If they had not forgotten it, they would never have thrown it away like refuse. The power contained in the mana heart, you will understand soon enough. I believe that day is not far off. Then came the next day. His uncle ignored the jab entirely and said he would use the power of only one chain. If you can force me back half a step, I will acknowledge you. Fine, but what do I get? I will grant you one wish. If you win, even if you want a star from the sky, I will find a way to pluck it down. He nodded, satisfied. Since you are so generous, I will take that prize in advance. With that, he aimed straight for his uncle's throat and attacked. The man dodged it effortlessly. The first strike failing, he launched a second at once. But however many times he tried, his uncle blocked with ease and did not yield half a step. Is that all you have? Give up? He found his uncle's mouth more insufferable by the minute, but he had to admit the man's strength was formidable indeed. Worthy of the man who holds the northern frontier, with my current mana heart I am no match for him. With that, he prepared to deploy the art of the tongue. Does it not strike you as strange, uncle? 400 years ago, countless knights with mana hearts achieved glory beyond counting. Yet today, they have thrown away the very thing that won them all that glory. Only because mana chains appeared, which in their eyes are slightly stronger than a mana heart. But is a mana chain truly stronger than a mana heart? There is an old saying I wonder if you have heard. I am rather fond of it. When a man is not good enough, he should not blame the road for being uneven. And did I not say already? Even among mana hearts, there are considerable differences in rank. Have you ever heard of the martial soul hymn? His uncle thought he talked too much. Besides, this is a place of combat, not a place for pleasant discussion. If you have not caught your breath, I can wait a while longer. He signaled that it was unnecessary. You call it a low technique, then allow me to prove it to you. With that, he began to sing a melody sweet to the ear. His uncle did not understand why the boy had suddenly broken into song mid-sentence. If you are ill, go do it in your room. But the next instant, he startled. The mana coiling around the prince was far denser than before. That was nowhere near what a single chain could hold. It surpassed even an ordinary double-chain knight. Now you know. This is the power of the mana heart you all abandoned. His uncle startled. He had truly never imagined the song passed down through the ages held power like this. But whatever you do is futile struggling, because what you hold is a mana heart. A mana chain absolutely counters a mana heart. You will never defeat an enemy who wields one. He laughed. Then let me show you the true power of the mana heart. With that, he took up his sword and charged. The two locked together at once. Do you understand now? The stronger the mana chain, the stronger its suppression of the mana heart. Even using only the power of a single chain, I can force the mana heart inside you into reflux. With that, his uncle landed a heavy blow that drove him back. But he only laughed. To sing this hymn cleanly, I fought more than 100 duels back then, and used the power of a mana heart to take the force of a mana chain over 1,000 times. Through those 100 exchanges, the mana heart within me endured 1,000 crashing waves. Let me have you feel for yourself what it means to say a man who is not good enough should not blame the road. With that, he gathered every ounce of strength in his body and launched a ferocious assault on his uncle. His uncle felt the boy's power rising again, but surely this must be his limit. The moment he thought it, he startled. The boy's strength was still climbing. With every wave of attack, it grew stronger. If the power he first unleashed already passed the threshold of an ordinary double chain, then how could such a marvel be possible? You look puzzled. Have you forgotten I told you that even among mana hearts there are ranks? The same words again. When a man is not good enough, he should not blame the road for being uneven. His uncle flared up. You have barely scraped together a little power. Is that the capital for your arrogance? With that, he brought his blade down in a savage stroke. The aura of that single strike sent the prince flying. In light of your arrogance, I have decided to stop holding back. I never imagined this old man could turn on me so fast. With that, he deployed the art of the tongue again. Do you know? 400 years ago, every knight made one grave mistake. In order to preserve their arts intact, they left their descendants no enemy worth fighting. Everything was passed down whole, including the great martial soul hymns. But the long years eroded the greatness of those knights. People today think dragons exist only in legend, and they cannot even know the story of the ancient lord of the trolls. New hymns will still be composed, but at best they reached the level of defeating 100 soldiers. Do you think a new breeze like that can withstand the crash of a great wave? His uncle did not understand what the boy was raving about. Did he get drunk before the match? Just then, a dark red mana suddenly coiled around him. That mana drifted around him like living microorganisms. His aura surged abruptly. Then his voice rang across the yard again. Do you know why I am telling you all this? Because I want you to know how great a thing you have all lost. It is fine if you do not understand, because I will teach you properly. With that, he began to chant the dragon-slaying hymn. So tough no blade could sever it, so sharp it could split dragon scale and drink the hot blood beneath. But only a few lines in, he felt his body as though it were about to shatter. Just then, a warning window appeared before his eyes. Current body cannot command this hymn. Part of the hymn has been omitted. Only one verse may be used. An instant later, he charged straight at his uncle. His uncle calmly took the blow, but the mana chain inside him suddenly stirred in violent unease, as if it were about to be devoured by the boy's power. He was shaken. At this rate, losing is the lesser problem. He may drain me dry. With that, he hardened his heart. But even using the power of 4 chains, the blade in his hand was still cut through by the prince. He decided the old man was thoroughly dull. He said he would use only the mana of a single chain, and in the end unleashed everything he had without holding back a thing. Still, I am magnanimous. I will not stoop to his level. With that, he rose to his feet. Do you understand now, Count Val-Balohad? What it means to say a man who is not good enough should not blame the road for being uneven. That woman had merely sworn her allegiance, and it earned him an entire hymn, a hymn of submission binding for life, no less. The moment after his victory, he collapsed unconscious. He remained in a coma for days, though he had chanted only one verse of 16. Still, judging by the result, the gamble was worth it. Just then, Adelia came into his room. After you collapsed, the scene was chaos. Her Majesty nearly cursed the brains out of your uncle. He decided that was exactly what his uncle deserved, who told him not to hold back at all. Adelia said his uncle had left a message, asking to be informed the moment His Highness awoke. He told her to keep his recovery quiet for now. The urgent matter was to restore the spiritual strength damaged by overusing the hymn. If it did not recover quickly, his current memories would tangle with his old ones, and I might well end up an idiot who can only roll his eyes and babble. The very thought sent a chill through him. As he thought, his stomach began to growl. Adelia soon brought his meal to the room. As he ate, he told her about her ancestor. Agnes was once a great swordswoman. You are her descendant, so let the martial soul hymn she left behind be inherited by you. But can I truly inherit such a thing? He nodded. First tell me why you took up the sword. Adelia grew flustered at once. She hemmed and hawed for ages without managing to say why she held a sword. If you cannot think of it now, tell me another day. At that, Adelia looked straight at him without blinking. I took up the sword only because I wish to become your highness's sharpest blade. I am willing to live my whole life for you alone. The moment she said it, he startled to see a golden mist rise around her, then drift slowly toward him. A new martial soul hymn has been created. Hymn of submission, rank ordinary. A new martial soul hymn has been created. Hymn of dominion, rank ordinary. He was stunned. Then information about the hymn of submission surfaced in his mind. Does this not amount to binding her and me together for life? And the descendant of that war maniac who swore while she fought has woven a hymn of submission of all things. In several hundred years of existence, this was the first time he found the world this insane. Even so, I have gained no small advantage, and Adelia's future growth will benefit me all the more. At that thought, he found himself saying thank you to her, though I still have no idea what use this hymn will be to me. A few days later, judging the time right, he had Adelia announce his recovery, and at that very moment he regretted it to his bones. If time could be turned back, I would have lain there a few more days. Driving away those who hate this body is easy, but who would have guessed the first to arrive would be the one who loves it? At that thought, he let out a very heavy sigh. The queen assumed he was reminded of his uncle at the sight of her, and consoled him that his uncle had not meant it. So however much resentment you hold, please let it go now. We are family, after all. He explained that he held no resentment toward his uncle. How could you not? He treated you so roughly and nagged you constantly. If you say you feel nothing, that is surely a lie to comfort me. He was helpless, telling the truth and being called a liar. Who am I supposed to complain to? Besides, that day I quietly planted a heart demon inside him. He is probably more miserable than I am right now. If he has the strength, he will overcome the heart demon and advance a step further. If he cannot, he can only become a broken villain. Just then, the queen's voice came again. The truth is, your uncle is stern in speech and soft at heart. He has spent his whole life with a sword, so he neglected how to deal with people. But whatever he does, I can promise you it comes from genuine care for you. Your confinement ended because he went and pleaded with his majesty. And the moment it ended, you caused trouble for him. If that is so, then what I did to him makes me look even more like a villain. But why does he treat me so well? This man merely stopped by a smithy and was stunned on the spot, because inside that smithy he saw his own body from several hundred years ago, now being hammered and forged by an old blacksmith. The old scholar Niccolo came into his room. He went numb. Barely had he seen the queen out than an old scholar arrived to make him study diligently and improve himself. Can I not simply be an idle prince? Why must I read books? So now you're calling me a pig? Do not judge me by appearances. I have long known everything I need to know, so I have no need to study. The scholar replied that if he did not wish to study, there was another way. Let us discuss a few questions. If you can answer them, I will report to the king. He was delighted at once. I hope you keep your word. But the next moment he was staring. Why are books this interesting now? I love studying. The scholar nodded, satisfied, exclaiming that the boy was worth teaching. Then he handed him another book. This one is fascinating and rather bold. It treats the relationship between ruler and subject as a contract or a transaction. The sovereign receives military and economic support in exchange for protecting his subjects, and the subjects seek protection and political stability in return for their loyalty. He found this book very much to his taste. Of course, every relationship should be mutual giving like this. The old scholar decided the rumors truly could not be trusted. This is no scoundrel of a first prince. This is a fine, well-read, well-mannered young man. Dusk arrived quickly. The scholar rose to take his leave. I will come again tomorrow. Delighted, he told him to come early. But then he stopped short. Have I forgotten something? Does that not mean I just studied for an entire day? That detestable, cunning old man. A few more days passed. He did nothing those days but study. Since his body needed to recover, he could not go to the training ground either. Even Karl could see how bored the first prince was. But however bored, one cannot writhe about like a maggot. It is unbecoming of royalty. Just then Adelia announced that his uncle had come. He brightened at once. I never thought the old man would recover this fast. But upon seeing him, he startled. I take back what I just said. He has not overcome the heart demon I planted in him at all. Then his uncle spoke, and his first words were an apology. I not only broke my own promise, I inflicted a grave wound on you because of it. He had not expected the man to apologize. Guilt rose in him at once. That was caused by forcing the dragon slaying him through this body. Frankly, his blade aura that day did not scrape off a single layer of my skin. Then the queen's words echoed in his mind again, and I planted a heart demon in him. His guilt deepened. His uncle spoke again, cutting through his thoughts. Now tell me your wish. Whether you want my hand or my eye, I can give it. He had no idea what he would do with such things. It seems this man truly cannot overcome the heart demon on his own. He sighed helplessly. Then let me help you. My wish is that you go out and travel with me. His uncle was puzzled. Can you not go wherever you please now? He said he wanted to travel somewhere farther, at least beyond the capital. His uncle said it was impossible. It would cost too much in manpower and resources. Besides, there are a number of banquets coming up. He answered that a small party would be enough. Fine. I will contact you once it is arranged. With that, his uncle left. He immediately sensed that Karl beside him had been staring at him. I do not understand why he keeps staring. Are flowers growing on the back of my head? Karl said he was merely stunned by such a simple wish. Your uncle broke his promise. You could have used that wish far better. He answered that he had planned to. But seeing that stubborn old man reduced to this, for some reason it made me sad too. I had thought I would at least feel vindicated. Karl also felt his young master really had grown up. He did not understand what the man was laughing at. Have I not whipped you lately? Shut your mouth. Just then Adelia came in with a letter. This is a letter Lady Arwen sent you. Then she placed it in his hands. It seems I will be able to return to your side before long. Until that day comes, I hope you remain in good health." When he finished reading, a warm smile spread across his face. This is the only good news of the past stretch of time. A few days later, thanks to his uncle's arrangements, his party set out. Traveling as a human for the first time, he was unusually excited. As a sword, I could perceive things too, but in the end, that was not a road I walked myself. Even his uncle had to tell him to sit still inside the carriage. "Then tell me where the first stop of our journey is." His uncle explained the first stop was Ellen County, the Crown's largest weapons-producing region. The land had iron mines and ore. It also held a smith's guild famous throughout the world. It was no exaggeration to say more than half the Crown's weapons came from Ellen County. He thought that was perfect. I have been worrying about having no sword to use. The royal family had plenty of fine blades. But after the incident in which he stabbed himself to death, the king and queen had barred him from the armory the moment they heard he wanted to hold a sword again. With that, he glanced at his uncle. I never expected this borrowed uncle to look so coarse and yet be so considerate. His uncle thought the boy must be possessed. Why else would one man stare at another man's face like that? Then he continued, "The first stop of the journey is Ellen County. It is 3 days' travel from the capital. 2 days beyond that, we reach the second stop, Iron Lion Castle. We will rest there briefly and prepare for the return to the capital." Hearing this, he went numb. It meant 3 days trapped in a carriage, and the man sitting across from him was no fun at all. He sighed helplessly. Because he had forced the dragon-slaying hymn last time, his mana heart had been running empty. "My spiritual strength has recovered. Now it is time to fill it." With that, he set about refilling the mana in his heart, right there in the carriage. Mana in this world exists everywhere, from the cool breeze slipping past the window to the voices of the nights outside. All of it hides no small number of mana particles. But after gathering for a while, he noticed something wrong. "Since when did my mana heart grow this large?" The window announced that because he had attempted an extraordinary feat beyond his own limits, and glimpsed a corner of that mighty will, his mana heart had transformed. Due to the transformation of the mana heart, your constitution has changed noticeably. Your body can now withstand more mana. Master stage detected. The link to the origin will be more stable. Some authority restrictions have been lifted. The third eye authority has been significantly enhanced. He immediately found he could hear farther and see farther. Today has brought far too many pleasant surprises. Edgar of House Ellen greets you. Torrance, eldest son of House Ellen, salutes His Highness. To meet you is a fortune of 3 lifetimes. I hope your Highness will wash off a little of the dust of the road here. He was shown into the manor. Dazzling weapons filled his view at once. He thought the place truly deserved its name as a holy land of weapons. But these are all decorations, the sort of storybook blade that shatters at a touch. If everything here is of this quality, finding a weapon may prove difficult. With that, he decided to visit the Smith's Guild. Edgar looked troubled at that. He did not see what there was to be troubled about. Smiths are stubborn men. They often ignore whoever calls them, and they are coarse. So, if your Highness feels offended, please regard it as their craftsman's spirit and be tolerant. He nodded, unbothered. You know me. I am the most tolerant of men. The Lord soon brought him to the Smith's Guild. Inside, flames roared everywhere. Bellows wheezed at his ear. The hammers in the smith's hands beat down on iron blow after blow, and sparks danced in the air. All these elements layered together into a symphony belonging to the smiths alone. The Lord thoughtfully warned that the temperature here was extremely high, and that His Highness should say so early if he felt unwell. Then he saw the prince standing there like a fool, eyes fixed blankly ahead. He thought, of course, a pampered prince. The furnace has already cooked him senseless. Just then the prince moved. The shape of the very first sword. Who on earth am I supposed to tell about this? Just then a touch on his face brought him back. Adelia asked anxiously whether it was too hot in there. He shook his head, then turned his eyes back to the smith ahead. Just then Zaxxon brought the smiths over to pay respects. The Lord introduced him as the head of the Smith's Guild. He nodded, barely interested, then turned his eyes back to the old smith before him. Zaxxon assumed he was displeased that the old man had not bowed, and hurriedly ordered him to stop at once and greet the prince. But before he could finish, the prince clapped a hand over his mouth, with a warning that if he did not want to die, he should keep it shut. Never again do anything I have not ordered, and the rest of you, the iron is going cold. If you want the fire to burn out, by all means keep standing there. Pardoned at last, The smiths cheerfully returned to their stations. That done, he went back to watching the old man work. He could make no sense of the feeling rising inside him. Why do I feel this way? The man had just received a divine relic and turned around to challenge every apprentice knight of the Iron Lion Order and beat every last one of them. He stayed watching the old man forge until dusk. Outside, he asked the Lord about him. The Lord explained that he was the most renowned master swordsmith in the region, but for some reason, these past months he had repeated the same cycle of forging a blade and melting it down. He asked in confusion whether they were all failures. The Lord shook his head helplessly. To me, they were already perfect, so I do not understand why he melts them all. He thought, spare me. The perfection you speak of is those toy blades hanging in your manor. He is no longer young, yet this past month he has hardly rested. In the days that followed, he came to the smithy early every morning to watch the old man work, and the old man simply kept his head down and continued. He only stood quietly to one side and watched. Then came the last night before they had to leave. That night the old man was still bent over his work. Even the Lord could feel that regret, though he did not understand why the prince felt it so deeply. That regret infected him profoundly. It made him wish the prince who had come from so far away could see a finished blade from the master swordsmith. So the next day he came happily to the manor to tell the prince the sword seemed to be finished. He went to the old man at once. The first light of dawn fell across the back bent in concentration over the blade. It made him look so utterly out of place in this world. A moment later the old man came before him, sword in hand. From now on this sword belongs to your highness. He was stunned, but the Lord was more stunned still. I only worked overtime with you so the prince could take one look. Why have you gone and given it away? But he did not know what the man was thinking. At that moment, both his hands were gripping the hilt, deeply shaken by the beauty of the blade. He asked the old man whether it had a name. The old man said he wished to call it Dusk. He asked, curious, what dusk meant to him. The dusk of a day's end or the dusk of a dawn? The old man explained, to me it is my dusk, but to your highness it is your dawn. He had not expected the old smith to speak so well and was about to praise him. But the next moment the old man collapsed to the floor. He hurried to lift him up. Carl reminded him it was time to leave. He shook his head and told Carl to tell his uncle he would stay here tonight. Night fell. The unconscious old man slowly woke. Do you know, your highness, the first day you stood behind me, this sword had already taken shape as though fated. So it is not that I wish to present this sword to you. It is that the sword itself chose to follow you. He shook his head lightly, then bent to the old man's ear and said something. The old man startled at his words. If that is so, then everything makes sense. Could you hand me that sword for a moment? He did not know what the man intended, but he handed the sword over all the same. Your highness, may this sword be as great as you. With that, the old man closed his eyes. Were it not for the absence of breath, that peaceful smile would have looked as though he were merely asleep. His heart sank. He said quietly, it will surely be great. A few days later, after burying the old man, the party set out again. The Lord stepped in front of him, saying he wished to present a sword. Though it could not compare with the blade the old master had forged with his soul, it was a fine magic sword nonetheless. He accepted it gladly. A sword forged by a renowned master with all his soul is already an extraordinarily precious gift. I did not expect you to offer a magic sword on top of it. You know how things work, boy. When I return, I will surely speak well of you to the king. The Lord went blank, but at that point he could only swallow the bitterness in silence. The party set off again. Not having seen his uncle for days, he asked in confusion where he had been. His uncle explained he had been carrying out some tasks assigned by the king. Besides, our journey is behind schedule, so we must reach Iron Lion Castle as soon as possible. You will be riding for the next stretch. He replied weakly that he did not know how to ride. His uncle was speechless. A knight who cannot ride. Is that acceptable? He was helpless, too. I used to be a sword. Have you ever seen a sword that could ride a horse? And so he began learning to ride under the instruction of his uncle and Carl. For the whole journey, he was either throwing up or on his way to throw up. Today, he finally dragged himself to Iron Lion Castle. He thought Iron Lion Castle rather magnificent, and Arwen stood at that moment behind the ranks of knights. A wicked thought rose in him at once. He strolled up to stand before her. But Arwen struck first. At last I see you, your highness. Every minute and every second here felt like a year. At last I can see your highness again. Those words instantly enraged the knights present. That detestable scoundrel of a prince has plucked our flower of the Iron Lions. Just then he felt a chill at his back. But is that really how it is? Seeing that Adelia had been soothed, he assumed the matter was settled. Then he turned back to Arwen. Now let us go do something interesting. And it would be better still if they were willing to come. And so he stepped onto the training ground, the swordsmanship of the Iron Lion Knights. So which of you is the best fighter? The knights looked at one another, and not one stepped forward. He sighed helplessly. You need not concern yourselves with my station. Still no one came out to face him. He sighed again. It seems the famed Iron Lion Knights are all name and no substance. I never imagined you would be such cowards. That enraged the Iron Lions at once. Dale stepped forward, declaring he would beat the prince until he was crawling for his teeth. He laughed. Then let us see who ends up crawling for their teeth. And beckoned to Dale with his hand. Dale felt himself insulted. He took up his sword in bitter fury and charged. The prince merely raised his blade to block, and left Dale with internal injuries. Then a single blow sent him flying. He curled his lip. Who will be my next opponent? The knights grew angrier still. Paul stepped out. I will be your next opponent. Do not think beating him makes you invincible. Dale joined only a year ago. I am a veteran of 3. But a moment later, he too was sent flying by a single stroke. He was exasperated. If these people are here to fight, why do they talk so much? He had not expected the apprentice knights to be this weak. It seems I need to challenge full knights. With that, he looked at Arwen again. In a few days, you will leave here with me. Arwen was secretly delighted. She said happily that wherever His Highness went, she would go. At that, one knight could no longer sit still. I hear His Highness enjoys wagers, so how about a small wager to liven the mood? If I defeat your Highness, Arwen remains here. His face darkened at once. He said Arwen could not be a prize. Then he motioned for Carl to bring the magic sword. Let us wager something else. If you win, this magic sword is yours. At the sight of that divine blade, the knight's eyes lit up. Arwen had not expected him to give up so fine a sword for her sake, and hurriedly said it must not be. He told her to say no more. This sword is fine, but in my heart you are worth 100, 1,000 of it. Arwen was stunned, never imagining she mattered so much to His Highness. Just then Nam spoke up, saying, let it be so. I am a full knight of the Iron Lion Order, and near to completing my 3rd chain. I hope His Highness will not accuse me of picking on the weak. He laughed. For all those fine words, you are still only double chain. Why not tell me what you can offer me instead? Nam bristled, saying it was the 17th sword he had forged himself, and he would put it up as the prize. He nodded, satisfied. And so the fight between them began. Though your Highness has strayed onto the wrong path, I will still give this fight everything I have. Then let me show you whether it is the wrong path. With that, he drove his mana heart to full power. A tremendous mana coiled through the yard at once. Adelia watched closely. Adelia did not understand how this suddenly involved her. Because this is the road you will walk from now on. And the road you must walk. The next moment, the mana within Adelia erupted as well. I will watch very closely. This man plainly only had an itch to fight. Yet his uncle believed he was paving the road to become king one day. Not only did he swear fealty to him, he also told him to leave everything in his hands with an easy mind. I will make you king no matter what. Meanwhile, his uncle had found the head of the Iron Lion Knights. He asked for the support of the entire order. The head refused outright. Every one of the princes is more excellent than the first prince. Setting aside the 4th, who has no interest in the throne, I could pick any of the others at random and still do far better. Besides, is it not you who drove things to this point? If you, as his uncle, had given the first prince even a little support back then, he would never have ended up as isolated as he is now. You yourself hardly cared about him, and now you want my support. That is daydreaming, plain and simple. His uncle fell silent. Part of it lay with the first prince himself. But if, when he made a mess of things, I had guided him patiently instead of scolding him, would he have turned out better? And what did I do then? I walked away carrying a heart full of disappointment. Afterward, I even received poisoned wine from him. From the moment I saw that cheap poisoned cup, all I had left for him was indifference. But one day he suddenly changed. Not only did he endure grueling training, he grew stronger by the day. Just then the head spoke again. As I recall, you were the one who said the first prince must never become king. His uncle admitted those were indeed his words. At the very least, let him stand at the same starting line as the other princes. With that, he bowed deeply before the man. Just then, someone shoved the door open in a panic. "Report, the first prince is fighting our knights." On the way, the head reassured his uncle not to worry. "Nam will certainly not injure His Highness." His uncle replied that His Highness was not what he was worried about. "I am afraid His Highness will not know his own strength and cripple your knight by accident." The head decided his uncle must have drunk bad wine. There was no other way to explain the nonsense he was talking. But the next instant, Nam came flying backward and landed right in front of them. The head was stunned. Just then, another wave of cheering rose from the yard. "I cannot believe His Highness won again." That left him more bewildered still, wondering why they said again. The fight with Nam had ended in a single blow. The remaining full knights could not sit still and stepped up one after another to challenge him. He said very well, but they must bring an appropriate stake. And so he took on the attacks of one knight after another. Very soon, every full knight present had been laid out. The apprentice knights had never seen a fighter like this. They cheered as one, entirely forgetting the man had come to tear down their own house. Just then, the window announced that he had obtained the hymn of the duel and that it had leapt straight to extraordinary rank. Delight crossed his face. "I never imagined today would bring a harvest like this." But the next moment he collapsed to the ground, out of strength. Just then someone caught him. "Your Highness's skill is truly astonishing." The whole yard erupted in cheers again, and that was exactly the sight the newly arrived head and his uncle walked in on. The two of them had to applaud him as well. The head also reassured him not to fear their resentment, saying they were all simple men at heart. A clean victory like that is worth far more. If both sides have given everything, then who wins hardly matters. The knights nearby nodded along. Though Nam will certainly be sore about it, since he just lost the prized sword he never stopped bragging about. He laughed. The world has changed. But at the very least, one thing has never changed from beginning to end, and that is the knightly spirit passed down to this day. The party soon set out for home. He smiled and told everyone to stop seeing them off. Then he looked at Count Howden beside him. "I would ask you to keep everything about my stay here confidential." The man did not understand why. Would announcing it not be more useful for becoming crown prince? A wicked smile crossed his face. "If it is announced, I am afraid that boy will simply concede." The party traveled until the sky darkened. Only then did his uncle declare they would camp there for the night. He thought Arwen had been odd all day. Just then Carl volunteered to scout the surroundings. He nodded. Once Carl was gone, he looked at Arwen behind him, thinking she was probably just unused to things. With that, he decided to rest in his room first. But Adelia had been waiting there for some time. He was helpless. "I clearly told her to stop doing maid's work." He sighed. "You may withdraw. I want to rest." Too much had happened these past days, and he really was exhausted. Besides, the Iron Lion Knights were not what he had imagined. Most of their knights had no great talent for the sword. And yet within the Iron Lions there were men who, on unremarkable talent alone, had reached the realm of a sword expert while still young. Could it be because of the mana chain? If so, then the mana chain does have something to commend it. But if that is the case, then those with true talent will never touch the extraordinary realm in their whole lives. He sighed helplessly. "It seems I still understand far too little of this age. I have decided. From today I will study this age properly." Just then his uncle came into his room. "I am glad you think that way. I will help you achieve your dream." His head filled with question marks. What dream, and how do I not know about it? His uncle thought the boy was playing dumb again. "You have done what no other prince could, and you even blended in with the members of the Iron Lion Order. Are you not paving the road to becoming king?" He was staggered. "This man's imagination is terrifying. I only wanted to fight." His uncle spoke again. "Do you remember the wager between us?" He asked, "The wager about defeating the third prince?" His uncle explained that the wager was to defeat a double-chain knight, and you have done it. "And I will do exactly as I promised. From this day forward, I, Val Balohad, as a count of the kingdom and commander of the Third Army, will formally support the first prince as heir. Leave everything to me with an easy mind, Your Highness. I will make you crown prince without fail." He felt thoroughly unwell. Has this man been drinking bad wine? When did I ever say I wanted to be king? The party soon returned to the capital, and his uncle's public declaration blew the city wide open. No small number turned to support him, most of them, of course, out of deference to his uncle. The king therefore assigned him still more guards. He felt thoroughly unwell. "Can we truly not send them all back?" Karl replied they had all come by royal order, and even as crown prince he would not command them. He settled for a compromise. "At the very least, keep them out of my sight because they are far too noisy." After a long while, the entire manor finally fell quiet. He let out a long breath, savoring a moment of peace hard won. Just then the third prince arrived. He truly could not fathom what the little wretch wanted with him. The third prince said, "You play the fool very well. Secretly learning swordsmanship from our uncle behind my back is one thing, but you have flaunted such grand ambition on top of it. I had intended to leave you some dignity. Treating me like this, do you think you have done right by me?" He thought the little wretch spoke his nonsense in remarkably complete sentences. "You have made a grave mistake, do you know that? I will make you pay dearly for your deception." How else could he say something so absurd? "I do not want to be king at all. And could you not discuss things with me before acting? Do you know how many messes I have had to clean up because of your declaration?" His uncle said he knew what the boy was worried about. He thought, "You understand again, do you? Besides, do you not know the fate of an eldest son who fails to inherit the throne? You may lie low, but you cannot lie low forever. If you need time, I can give you time. But there is one thing I hope you remember. Only when you are dead does the legitimacy of the firstborn's claim disappear." He sighed helplessly, wondering who on earth would want something as trivial as a throne. "What I want has always been only the authority that reaches the extraordinary realm." But that thought of his changed the moment the banquet began. He found himself thinking royal power really was a very fine thing. The man merely attended a banquet and left his uncle stunned on the spot. Because a second ago he was saying he would not be king even if he died out in the street. And a second later he was saying the throne goes around by turns, and this year it is our turn. Countless nobles came to the banquet because of his uncle's support, which showed just how deep the man's influence ran in the kingdom. Even he had to inwardly admit the man was worthy of being the grand marshal who held the north. Still, these nobles were rather absurd. Their bodies were full of wicked marks accumulated from plunder and from trampling other people's lives at will. But among them there were still a few worth looking at. With that he came to stand before Taylor. Sweat poured off the young man at once. He had never dreamed that a prince with 1,000 duties would still remember a minor noble from a remote mountain village. "But has His Highness been possessed? Otherwise, why keep staring at me like that? Thank goodness there were rumors that His Highness prefers women, or I would be starting to wonder." Just then, a guard called for everyone's attention. "The ambassador of the Burgundy Empire, the Marquis, has arrived." The words had barely finished when a portly noble appeared before everyone. He even greeted the prince, saying it had been a long time. He thought, "It certainly has been a long time, but not between us, between me and the nation of Burgundy. 400 years ago, my friend and I fought bitterly for years before we could defeat that old enemy. That name left countless scars upon this country, and yet at this moment he dares appear here, dares appear before me." Just then a noble knocked over a glass of wine, and he woke from his boundless fury. The man hurriedly apologized. "Please forgive my clumsiness, Your Highness. I was simply too eager to pay my respects to you." He did not answer. Instead, he turned his eyes toward the ambassador. The Marquis was bewildered, thinking, "Why is this man staring at me? I am not the one who spilled wine on you." The hall fell silent at once. After a long while, he said he needed to change his clothes. Then asked Karl who the noble that had bumped into him was. Karl answered that it was Marquis Billy. An amused smile crossed his face. "It seems they are not all rotten through. Thanks to him, I managed to calm down." He soon changed into fresh clothes. Hearing of the incident, his uncle hurried over. "Marquis Billy says that at the banquet you looked as though you meant to cause trouble. Judging by your expression, he was not entirely making it up. Now tell me what you actually intend to do." He explained that he was not brainless. "I simply do not understand why that wicked house of Burgundy can flaunt its power at the very heart of the kingdom. Even the nobles show him a sincere respect they have never shown the crown. So I am very curious, how exactly did this country fall this far?" His uncle sighed helplessly. "There is no special reason behind it. In the past, the kingdom also resisted the empire's invasions with resolve. Every knight stood forward and gave his strength selflessly. But as time passed, the Empire's strength grew until the gap between us was total. In the end, the Empire became a superpower dominating its region, and the kingdom had no choice but to submit. He startled. Could it be because of the hymns? The kingdom might be only a small nation at the edge of the continent, yet it once held hymns that let it face a mighty empire, accumulated bit by bit from its founding until they were perfect. Some were ordinary and some extraordinary. Sometimes they were tales of heroes, sometimes legends. Sometimes they were even revered as myths. Those were the martial saint hymns. But now the kingdom has lost every one of them. He sighed lightly and said flatly, I have changed my mind. I intend to see whether I can become the king of this country. Perhaps one day I will regret this decision. But it is something I must do. After all, half of this country is mine. With that, he brought his uncle back to the banquet. Hearing that his uncle had arrived, the nobles reluctantly bent to pay their respects. He laughed. These people are a far cry from how they treated that marquis earlier. It seems it was the same when Leon founded the kingdom, because he was nothing but a country boy born in some remote mountain village. So in their hearts, everyone looked down on him. And yet in the end, he stood before them all, exactly as I do now. These nobles have not changed at all. From beginning to end, they are a pack of the willfully blind. With that, he drove another hymn, though the window kept warning that his current constitution could not sustain it. Compared with the dragon-slaying hymn, this one was not yet unbearable. When the last verse of the hymn was complete, he appeared before them all wearing a crown. The nobles were aghast. He thought the effect was rather good. He was about to seize the moment for some grand words, when a wave of energy rose beside him that he rejected from the very depths of his being. He startled. Across all time, the number of people who repulse me from the bottom of my soul can be counted on one hand. So why does it have to be that madwoman of the elven race? The man merely attended a banquet, and ran into the wicked woman he had spent his whole life hoping never to meet again. Understand that this madwoman did not even spare him back when he was a sword, holding him in her arms night after night as she slept. It was Sigrun. He was stunned. That madwoman. The elven race had always been praised as the most perfect creation of the divine, but he knew that beneath that near-perfect exterior lay minds twisted beyond measure. They not only used their beauty to bewitch others, they struck the fatal blow at the moment you were weakest and most at ease. And this woman happened to be a textbook case of the obsessive kind. But he quickly regained his composure. Come to think of it, I am no longer a sword. If she recognizes me as Grukon, nothing on earth could stop her. Sigrun asked curiously whether they had met before. There is an aura about you that feels very familiar, as though we were once in very close contact. He startled. He had not expected her nose to be that keen. He hurriedly explained this was the first time in his life he had seen an elf. Disbelief was written all over Sigrun's face. Because when a human sees an elf for the first time, there are only two reactions. One is to be captivated by the elf's beauty. The other belongs to those of the highest martial attainment who fear being captivated. But you say this is your first time seeing an elf, and you were not captivated by me. And as far as I know, you have not reached the realm of a martial master. He had no choice but to explain that his tastes were a little unusual. Disgust immediately crossed Sigrun's face. I respect everyone's tastes. With that, she left. He let out a long breath. That should spare me that particular torment. But a few days later, he was thoroughly stunned. He truly had not expected the queen to actually start selecting a consort for him. But is this child still sucking a pacifier for real? And this one looks like someone people cross the street to avoid. He could not understand how things had come to this. The queen was still counseling him that a prince's spouse need only have a distinguished house behind her. The words had barely finished when a guard's voice came from outside. Then the elven delegation led by Sigrun appeared before the queen. I am Sigrun of House Mistletoe, and I offer my sincere greetings to the beautiful Queen Margarita. The queen asked, puzzled, what Sigrun wanted from her, since the elves had not sent a delegation to their country in a very long time. Sigrun explained that she had simply heard the queen was selecting a consort for the prince. And I am a noble of the high elven race. Most importantly, my age is not far from his highness's. He was staggered. Are these truly words a person can say? You are nearly 1,000 years old, and this body is 16 at the outside. You really have no shame at all. Just then, Sigrun spoke again from below. In truth, from the very first moment I saw his highness, I felt our fates were woven together. He startled, because elves never lie about fate or about matters of the heart. This time she had claimed both. Does she truly mean to become my consort? Once he worked it out, he could no longer sit still. He truly could not fathom what this madwoman was scheming. He hurriedly pulled Sigrun away. In an empty room, he demanded to know her true purpose. I only wish to improve relations between my house and the kingdom. What purpose could there be? Do you think anyone believes that nonsense? You, who for centuries have handled the dirty work for your house, now claim you came to improve relations. Now tell me your real purpose. Tell me whether you came to investigate or to carry out a sentence. An amused smile spread across Sigrun's face. It seems my feeling that day was not wrong at all. You truly are an interesting man. But how do you know about me? He was at a loss. I can hardly say I was forced to warm your bed countless nights. Besides, this woman is stronger than she was centuries ago. If she traces the past and realizes our fates were once entwined. But for the sake of the rest of my life, I cannot give up. I truly do not want to be toyed with by this madwoman night after night again, Sigrun spoke. Since you know I am an executioner, you must know what happens to those who stay silent before me. He answered calmly that he knew very well. But I also know very well what happens to those who talk too much before an executioner. I told you all this only so you would stop being curious about my fate. With that, he looked at her with confidence, thinking that should stoke her curiosity to the greatest possible degree. As long as I become a delicacy she wants to savor slowly, this is in the bag. I am only a pitiful child abandoned by his own father. But I will rise and rise mightily. If you are curious, then wait and see. Sigrun felt she had understood at last. All those trivial, tedious missions. In this moment, I finally understand. He truly could not tell what she had understood now. Of course it is all because of you. He had no words, not changed in the slightest. But never mind. As long as I achieve my aim, it is enough. I have decided to become engaged to Sigrun. Just you wait, Sigrun, you wicked woman. In this time, I will make you respect me, worship me, love me, and be unable to let me go. This man merely swung his sword offhand, and everyone present was utterly astonished, because a few months ago he had been the kingdom's foremost good-for-nothing. The news soon reached the third prince's ears. At that moment, the third prince was beside himself with fury. He truly could not fathom what filthy luck his useless elder brother had run into. Plucking the flower of the Iron Lions was one thing, and then their uncle suddenly declared his support for him. And now even that elf has become his fiancé. Damn it, I was the one who liked her first. From the first moment I saw her, I had even chosen names for our children. If you, my useless elder brother, will not be kind, then do not blame your third brother for being unkind. I will make her lose all interest in you, so she may respect me, worship me, love me, and be unable to let me go. The day of the duel arrived. The referee finished reading the rules. Now let your highnesses raise your swords. He thought, the old man is finally done. But why are there so many spectators? He said, boy, you are quite the chatterbox, though you were never quiet to begin with. The third prince flared up. Let us see whether you can still run your mouth after this duel. With that he charged, sword raised. He sighed lightly. I was only joking, little brother. Why so hasty? I had even planned to play with you a while. As he finished, he no longer concealed his aura. His second stage cultivation was laid bare. The whole ground fell silent at once. The third prince, too, was defeated easily by a single blow. He lay sprawled on the ground, utterly unconscious. Hilda of the Silver Lion Knights, once his tutor, was stunned. He could not understand why the boy had been a piece of trash after years under him and grew this fierce after only a few months with his uncle. He only sneered. Now announce the result of this match. Hilda swallowed hard. As witness and adjudicator of this duel, I rule that the third prince cannot continue. The victor is the first prince. The news swept the kingdom and caused an uproar. How could he lose? Was he not the strongest in the kingdom below the third chain? And yet he was defeated by the first prince, the acknowledged good-for-nothing of the realm. The scene shifts to him. His uncle did not understand why he was in such a hurry to go north. Would a few more days of rest not be better? Because there is nothing left for me to do in the capital. Nothing but nobles who fawn on the empire. Besides, I think soldiers and knights suit me far better than nobles. His uncle replied that though they were not as calculating as nobles, winning their hearts was no easy thing either. He thought his uncle worried too much. I believe that if we roll in the mud together, feeling will grow where there was none. That may be true, but I still think you are in too much of a rush. He found it hard to speak. Am I supposed to say the greatest reason I am rushing to leave is to get away from Sigrun? If I do not leave soon, I fear this body's chastity will not survive. So before that, I must strengthen myself in earnest. In the peaceful capital, my growth is severely limited. But the distant northern battlefield is different. It is the place humanity has been tested most since ancient times, and the place that has given birth to the most hymns. There I can hone my blade to my heart's content. That is where I ought to be. Just then, his uncle said they had reached the Blade Mountains. Why not get into the carriage? You look so frozen even a bird would shrink back. I am not so easily frozen. Besides, I must get used to this cold early. He assumed Arwen's flushed face was from the cold and suggested she rest in the carriage. I am a knight. How can a knight covet a moment's comfort? Allow me to walk beside you. He nodded, satisfied. This girl really does have drive. Taking her as my personal knight was no mistake. Compared to her, that lot fall far short. By now they were surely still sulking over being dragged here by royal decree. If Carl were here, he would surely have them well in hand. This body is plainly his own flesh and blood. Whatever crimes it committed before, I have done my best these past months to make amends. And still his attitude is this harsh. Could there be some story behind it that I do not know? Just then his uncle announced a blizzard was coming and they must move faster. But even at speed, the scattered flakes soon became a blizzard. People could not even hear the person right beside them. Adelia, too, was helped down from the carriage by him. She thanked him softly. Just then he saw the knights raising their shields against the blizzard. He flared up at once. You are a pack of fools. The knights were bewildered, not understanding why they were suddenly being scolded. Throw away everything but your swords, then form a single line and advance. And so the column set out in force. The method did reduce the wind pressure, but it made the march little easier. Before long, a knight could take no more and collapsed. He hoisted the knight onto his own shoulder. The knights around him were stunned. Do not stand there gaping. Get moving. Just then the blizzard suddenly stopped. He felt at once that heaven had played him for a fool. Otherwise, why not stop earlier or later? Why stop precisely when we arrive? Suddenly, his uncle stepped from the column to the front of the fortress. A moment later, he laid his arm across his chest. I, as the lawful ruler of Balohad and commander of the kingdom's third army, sincerely welcome the visit of the first prince. Welcome to Winterfort. This man merely swung his sword offhand and left Vincent, famed for the standing of his house, stunned, because that seemingly careless stroke had reaped an entire swath of orcs. Winterfort is the kingdom's northernmost fortress. It exists to hold back the monsters that occupy the Blade Mountains, but the place is also plagued by every kind of extreme weather. The worldly nobles weighed Winterfort's political standing. But to those born and raised in Balohad, this place was the duty of their lives and the source of their pride. Vincent Balohad was one of those proud men. From today I end my duty as acting commander and return to my post as commander of the Rangers. I am truly glad you have returned safely, father. He had not expected his uncle to have a son this grown. But you two really are alike, especially that stubborn-looking mouth. That left his uncle speechless. Did you think I could not have even one child? Then he told Vincent, this is His Highness Idrian, the first prince. Every rumor about the prince flooded Vincent's mind at once. Still, he bowed respectfully. I am Vincent of House Balohad, commander of the Ranger Corps, and I salute His Highness the First Prince. He promptly asked Vincent whether he had a mother-in-law yet, and never to let her light his cigarette. Vincent replied he had no one he cared for at present, nor did he understand why his father had brought this scoundrel here. This is no place for a scoundrel driven out of the capital who wanders about with women in tow. Just then, a soldier suggested showing the prince around the castle first. His uncle said he had decided to become Idrian's guardian, so the prince would be staying in Balohad for a time. Vincent was stunned. Did you not once say he was nothing but a good-for-nothing? Even His Majesty finds him a nuisance. Why would you do this, father? His uncle did not answer. I believe people do change in the end. On this I ask only one thing of you, that you observe him without any prejudice. Then you will understand why I am doing this. They soon entered the great hall. His uncle asked how the mission to clear the surrounding monsters was progressing. Their numbers had dropped, but many areas remained uncleared. Now that you have returned, Father, we should mount another operation. But one place is especially difficult. A band of fewer than 20 orcs has settled near the mountain pass. A group that size cannot be handled by ranger arrows alone, so I am currently selecting knights stationed in the castle. Just then he stepped forward. Leave this one to me. The words brought cold sweat to everyone present, and they hurriedly warned that the orcs of the Blade Mountains were nothing like ordinary orcs. He simply looked at his uncle. The man understood at once. Vincent answered that the confirmed count was 20 at most, but they could not conclude on that basis that there were no others. Hearing this, his uncle turned to him. You have heard it all. Are you still confident? Vincent hurriedly objected. That pass is one of the Rangers' main routes. If anything goes wrong, it becomes a battlefield against orcs, and our future operations become many times harder. And if His Highness's safety is compromised, the situation in Balohad will fall into chaos. His uncle only shook his head lightly and told Vincent not to worry. Then he turned and asked the prince what he needed. He said he needed a few guides, new equipment for his people, and the loan of some crossbows. His uncle said those requests were not difficult. The guides soon appeared. Then let us set out. They asked in confusion where they were going. Do you not know? We have taken a mission to subjugate an orc tribe. There are 20 of them, and they may or may not include orc warriors or orc shamans. But Your Highness, we came here as your escort. Besides, the Third Army has arrived. Why would you need us? You must follow and protect me anyway, must you not? The Third Army will find you today. Go collect your equipment and report back to me. The three guides could only nod helplessly and agree. These men were elites chosen by the crown, and their abilities in every area were quite good. Though it seemed one suspicious fellow had slipped in among them, he decided the coming operation would not be boring. Your Highness may not be aware, but if this operation fails, the consequences will exceed anything you can imagine. He replied that he would not fail. I think Your Highness is treating this far too simply. Neither man would yield. Invisible gun smoke spread between them. He activated the authority of appraisal again. Reaching triple chain knight so young is indeed impressive. With that, he signaled the group to set out at once. And so they embarked on the campaign against the orcs. The whole way, Vincent nagged in his ear. You must conserve as much stamina as possible while walking. If your stamina drops, your limbs stiffen, and the fight will not go well. Especially in a place piled with ice and snow like the Blade Mountains, you must be careful. He thought the boy's nagging really was endless. Does his mouth never dry out? Just then, a running rabbit caught his attention. A soldier lifted a spyglass, his face grim. The shapes of several orcs came into his view. He spread his palm open at once. A moment later, the soldiers drew the crossbows they had been issued. The sound of drawn weapons quickly drew the orcs' attention. Eating well, are we, gentlemen? At his single command. Countless bolts flew at the orcs. In an instant, more than half their fighting strength was gone. The air filled with the orcs' earth-shaking roars of killing intent. He drew the sword at his hip. A moment later, he leapt at an enormous orc. That orc's roar cut off mid-breath. A sickly smile spread across his face. At last I have found the thing I was missing. Pounding footsteps, roars full of killing intent, and the sticky reek of blood in the air. This is the atmosphere of the battlefield I have been searching for. Someone was about to speak when he called out to stop them. Come no closer, you may be caught up in it. A fragment of memory and a hymn crashed into his mind. This is a story reaching back 400 years, perhaps further. In that age, orcs were not monsters, but one of the proudest sovereign races of the continent. This story is no myth either, and has nothing to do with heroes. He was a man who could not even leave his name in history. The hymn of a pitiful man who loathed orcs, and the elegy of a father who fought on until he was spent. The man merely swung his sword simply, and everyone present was utterly astonished, because that seemingly simple stroke had reaped countless orcs that even double-chain knights found difficult. He had chanted the hymn of vengeance. He wandered ceaselessly across the wastelands the orcs ruled, seeking the blood of his enemies. Though the mana in his heart had long run dry, he did not stop, and so grew weaker and weaker. And I, as the demon sword in his hand, held him up. To fulfill his final wish, I burned away his very life. In the end, he cut them all down, exactly as they had once done to him. That was the requiem he played for his wife and his daughter. Then the nemesis of his life appeared, though by then he was spent in body and spirit. He still swung the blade in his hand at it with everything he had. But this world does not hold that many miracles. He failed all the same, crushed beneath the foot of the Orc Lord. Yet he never gave up, not until the final moment. The last words he spoke then have been forgotten, lost to time. And so his story ended. Known to no one, never once told. He woke from that memory. At some point the ground around him had filled with orc corpses. The knights were still holding off the remaining ones. At the sight he gripped his blade again. Though his story has ended, the hymn of vengeance is not yet finished, until the orc corpses were piled like a mountain, and a pool of crimson blood gathered beneath them. The last orc fell. And with that, the hymn of vengeance was finally complete. Just then Vincent broke the orc's banner, declaring victory in this battle. It seems that pitiful man was also named Vincent. Back then, to wipe out the orcs, he even gave up his own life. Just then, the words that had been forgotten surfaced clearly in his mind. Even in the next life, I would surely choose to walk this same road. The battle with the orcs was over, but a new evil had appeared as well. The hymn of vengeance had also transformed into a requiem. Vincent brought the broken banner to him. Now please accept it. He did not understand why he was being handed a broken banner. Vincent explained it was a Winterfort tradition. The bravest knight deserves the enemy's banner. It is an irreplaceable trophy of honor. And you are the knight who slew the most orcs in this battle, so the banner can belong to no one else. Just then Arwen came forward with several knights. Allow us to offer our highest respects to the brave prince. His heart bloomed at once. After all, in his past life as a sword, he had never been respected like this. With that, he raised the banner high and declared victory in the campaign. Row upon row of knights cheered with him. Now I am the master of this banner, Vincent muttered beside him. I have one too. He thought he had misheard. You did not mishear. I have orc banners too, 16 of them. He understood at once. That temperament of theirs is no coincidence. Perhaps there truly is some link between them that cannot be explained. With that, he raised the banner again. So what if you have 16? It is enough that this one is mine. The greatest grief in the world is nothing but the parting of the living and the dead. Everyone present was moved by the sight. Vincent consoled them that the losses in this operation were the lowest since fighting with the orcs began. Arwen felt that even so it was full of cruelty and sorrow. But war is like this. All that is needed is enough mourning and enough respect. I too will comfort the spirits of the dead with more orc blood. That is the way of House Balahad and of Winterfort, and it is my way, Vincent's way. Those words pulled him back into memory again. They share not only a name, but even the words they speak after a battle are nearly identical. Could he truly be that old man reborn? He shook his head helplessly. Though as I recall, we were not this many when we set out. The words made Vincent startle. He hurriedly explained that a ranger unit had happened to pass by, so they had joined the fight. What a coincidence, then. Indeed, quite the coincidence. After all, fate works in wondrous ways. Though I still find it strange that an orc force could penetrate this deep without even the rangers noticing. Perhaps we should hurry back and report the situation here. The group soon returned to Winterfort. When they arrived, his uncle had already been waiting outside the great gate for some time. Only when he saw them all return safely did he ease. He raised the orc banner high. At once the words, "His Highness is amazing," rang out without pause. I cannot believe His Highness is bragging about this again. That is the 11th time on the road back. Does he never get tired of it? Of course he did not get tired of it. He even wanted to show it off properly to his uncle. But his uncle was listening to Vincent's report just then. Vincent laid out every point he found suspicious. When the report ended, his uncle nodded. I meant to let you rest properly, but matters are urgent now. Then he signaled Vincent to come back with him and discuss it thoroughly. The two headed into Winterfort. But passing the prince, Vincent stopped. He did not understand why the man was staring at him. After a long while, Vincent finally spoke. I imagine your highness has had a hard time of it. Please go and rest properly. I never expected this sour-faced boy to say something like that. Is he putting on an act? Arwen thought that was probably not it. Perhaps he is only embarrassed at how quickly his attitude changed. Just then, Adelia, who had not been taken on the campaign, came running out of Winterfort. Seeing your highness safe and sound sets my mind at ease. Warmth spread through his chest. Then he raised the banner again. Do you know what this is? Arwen thought. Here we go again. Adelia, whatever you do, do not take the bait. But Adelia took the bait, and a fresh round of bragging began. Night fell. Vincent found him and said a ranger unit would regroup to scout the mountain region. Since we cannot know what unknown factors may lie in the mountains, Your Highness need not take part in this mission personally. The words left him speechless. I never said I wanted to take part. Why did you come all the way to my room to tell me this? Vincent explained that his uncle had sent him. It seems my uncle did this hoping the two of us would get along. After all, we are practically brothers. With that, he nodded lightly. Understood. You may withdraw. Once Vincent was gone, he sighed helplessly. Getting along with him is not hard, but the thought that he might be the reincarnation of my comrade from my days as a sword makes it strange. With that, his gaze fell on the captured orc banner. Today's battle really had drawn him in too deeply. An ancient hymn. So in future, I may occasionally feel something similar. I must make that thing entirely my own. Just as I evolved the hymn of vengeance into a requiem, suddenly a wicked aura shot straight to the crown of his head, and a bird appeared at his window. He startled. What in the world is this unusual wickedness? The man had traveled 10,000 miles to Winterfort to escape the elf he had loathed, even in his past life. And still the elf had found her way to his door. The bird tapped its beak against the glass, signaling him to open the window. He did not much want to, because he already knew who had sent this strange bird. But he let it in all the same. Then the bird spoke. Do you like the gift I sent you? He asked in confusion what gift. Then he noticed it had landed the moment it entered on the captured orc banner. Do not tell me the orc force appearing at the foot of the mountain was your doing. I only wish for His Highness to receive a greater challenge. Can His Highness not accept my goodwill? He frowned, displeased. She even wants him to accept her so-called goodwill. Dozens of lives were lost over this, and she still dares prattle on. Because the elven race are voyeurs to a pathological extreme, and this woman worse than most. There was not a trace of mourning in her for the dozens of rangers who died in the battle. At that thought, he grew irritable and told her to stop talking nonsense. You are so cold to me. But unrequited love is like this, always accompanied by endless pain. I can only wait fervently for the day you open your arms to me. I have no idea where this elf learned such sweet talk, but she could wait a lifetime and that day would never come. As he thought it, the bird suddenly landed by his ear and told him that deep in the mountains was something he needed now. Something extremely ancient sleeps there. If you turn it into lyrics, I promise it will become the most exquisite hymn of all. He was about to ask what was in the mountains when the bird beside him twisted in a hideous way. I know Your Highness still has many questions, but this adorable little thing is out of time. Until we meet again, Your Highness. The moment she finished, the bird burst apart before his eyes. A mixture of entrails and fresh blood splattered all over him. That detestable elf really did irritate him to the very last second. Just wait. Sooner or later, I will finish you. Why make her wait? Because right now, I cannot beat her. That she came all this way to tell him these things also made it clear that he had something she needed. Namely, a hymn. Since ancient times, elves have been the perfect listeners and the perfect reciters, because theirs is a race that can never become tellers. So they long to weave others' hymns into their own melodies and sing them within the sword dance. Much as I hate being led by the nose, just this once I will play along. Early the next morning, he found Vincent and asked about the mountains. The rangers went in and out of the mountains as though returning home, but only around the outer edges. Though he knew Vincent had no reason to lie to him, he pressed on unwilling, hoping to get even a scrap of something useful. Vincent shook his head helplessly. Our mission is to stop the monsters coming down from the mountains, not to explore them. That struck him as hard to believe. It is precisely because of this that the mystery and wonder of this world have been consumed away. Later generations find it harder and harder to reach the extraordinary realm. It seems coming to Balahad really was a good choice. As he was thinking, Vincent spoke again. Do not go getting ideas about heading deep into those mountains. He laughed and said he would not be going in now. That was not a lie, because at present he genuinely had no plans to. If it is as she says, it is at least something of heroic grade. Much as I want to charge straight in, now is not the time. I need more battles and more victories. And Balahad is a place where fighting happens constantly. Even so, he had not expected the fighting to come this fast. Has my mouth been blessed by the gods? He quickly brought Arwen to the section of wall where his uncle stood. He asked in confusion what had attacked this time. His uncle motioned for him to look outside. He lifted his head to look. The rangers on the mountain were retreating in a panic. That surprised him because the rangers at Winterfort were nearly all veterans of 100 battles, not to be underestimated. The next moment, the shapes of green-skinned monsters appeared. "Run faster, they will be in bowshot any moment." But something felt wrong to him. His uncle nodded too, saying those wolf riders were plainly toying with the rangers. There was no way they could not catch them. And after all this time, they showed no sign of fatigue. While no small number of our soldiers are already too exhausted to run, just then one ranger suddenly stopped, then turned to face the wolf riders bearing down on him. "You detestable green-skinned bastards, your opponent is a ranger of Ballohad." But the words had barely left him when a wolf rider's mount swallowed him in a single bite. The wall that had been so noisy fell abruptly silent. Some were nearly in tears. He charged the wolf riders like a madman with a blade all but shattered. Blood burst forth, and to their ears came the excited howls of orcs trampling life underfoot. He shoved Vincent aside, displeased. Vincent did not understand what he meant to do. He explained that they were luring them out of the fortress. "And they have issued us a challenge to a duel." Because the orc before them had been repeating one sentence over and over. "I shall wage a battle of glory and reclaim the honor of my legion for the great king." It had been shouting that at the top of its lungs the entire time. The man merely used one hymn, and roused the collective fighting spirit of thousands of soldiers. The orc host had reached the foot of the walls and had sent them an invitation to duel. "They are asking us for a duel?" His uncle's voice was full of disbelief. "Since you do not believe it, I will show you myself." Then he stepped to the edge of the wall and announced in the orc tongue that they accepted the duel, and told them to dismount from their wolves. When he finished, everyone could clearly see the shock on the orc commander's face. It asked whether he carried the blood of their tribe, for how else could a human speak their language? "I have no such garbage blood. All you need do is answer whether you will do as I say." "I will do as you say." He nodded, satisfied. "A sacred duel, is it? All I can say is sacred my foot." Then he turned to look at his uncle and the others behind him. His uncle's face was full of confusion, and he asked what bird language the boy had just spoken. But the next instant his face filled with astonishment. He truly could not grasp what was happening before his eyes, because the orc host that had been so ferocious was now falling back, leaving only a few of officer rank. The sight made his uncle begin to doubt his own life. In decades since being born in Ballohad, this was the first time he had seen orcs who feared nothing withdraw of their own accord. Vincent was astonished as well. He calmly told him to put his jaw back first. Then he relayed the orcs' demand. They wanted 5 soldiers for the duel. His uncle nodded gravely, then looked at Vincent. Vincent gladly accepted the charge, swearing he would avenge the rangers who had died. The soldiers around them clamored to join the duel as well. He announced that 3 of the places were already taken. The soldiers tried to object. "Besides me, none of you can even communicate with the orcs." "Then who takes the last place?" "You can do it, can you not? I will not fail you." "Where did you learn the orc tongue? This is the first time in my life I have learned orcs can even communicate." He laughed it off helplessly. "Read enough books and you could learn it too. And do not go thinking the past could have been settled through language, because the present situation is a special case." Just then, the orcs below the wall said their thirst for blood had grown unbearable. He sighed helplessly. "Then let us go and meet our fate." "Why call it fate? Because I do not believe this world holds that many coincidences. Barely had I entered this world when an elven ambassador who had not left the mountains in centuries came visiting my kingdom. Barely had I set foot in Ballohad when I ran into an orc kingdom that had slept for 400 years. To call that coincidence would be far too foolish. The guards in the gatehouse hauled the great gate up, the chains shrieking harshly. Before long, the gate stood fully open before the orc host, though he did not yet know whether what came next would be good or ill. But this moment was no time for such thoughts, because this was the time to fight. Before long, an orc stepped forward and asked whether he was to be its opponent. He assumed it was dissatisfied with him. "On the contrary, I am very satisfied with you. I can feel your fighting spirit is the highest among them. As an opponent, you please me greatly. I imagine your flesh and blood will be a rare delicacy as well." He drew the weapon in his hand. "I never expected the first opponent to acknowledge me on sight would be an orc. This really is absurd." Just then, Vincent spoke up to stop him, wanting to face this fiercest opponent himself. But the next moment, an orc blocked him. 2 orcs came to stand before him. Seeing this, Arwen stepped out as well. He reminded them that an orc duel was nothing like a knight's duel, with no taking turns. So every one of them had to survive. With that, he took up his sword and charged the orc before him. As he attacked, the others threw themselves at the orcs as well. The scene descended into chaos at once. Suddenly, a furious roar burst from the orc chieftain's mouth. He fell back hurriedly, astonished. "Even a will as firm as mine is affected, let alone the others." He laughed. "Is that what you think? Then let us see." The next moment, his aura was concealed no longer. His heaven-piercing cultivation was laid bare. A hymn rose out of thin air. The battlefield fell utterly silent. But after that brief hush, the soldiers erupted in earth-shaking cheers. The flavor of it was so alike. Whether coincidence or fate, coming here was a fine idea. "Thank you for waiting so patiently, you disgusting greenskin noble. Now become the first offering to this requiem of mine." The man had fallen unconscious purely from one bitter battle after another, and ended up being kissed by his own knight. The soldiers had fallen into an unprecedented struggle, all because of the roar the orc chieftain had let out. It not only weakened the will of his own side, it stoked the orcs' hunger for blood and victory. Against the orcs' assault, they could barely hold on. That left Vincent bewildered, because it was the first time in his life he had met orcs cooperating so seamlessly, and they had never been anywhere near this strong. "I cannot believe His Highness can trade blows with an orc that powerful. Your taunts are crude, just like your song. More talk becomes tedious. Before the mood cools, I will take your flesh. Tonight we dine on you." With that, the orc swung its great axe down at him. He merely raised his sword to block. The axe head shattered into countless fragments of metal. The orc startled. That axe had gone to war with it for hundreds of years, made from the finest iron in the whole village, and it broke that easily. At that thought, its fury blazed higher, and it silently swore to swallow the man before it alive. But before its anger was spent, it saw him already standing in front of it. With one downward stroke, one of its legs was severed clean. The savage pain made it spit blood and let out a piercing scream. Its massive body crashed to the ground. He reversed his grip on the blade, then poured blue karma into the edge, and drove the blade hard into the orc's chest. Just then, a scene as magnificent as hell erupted from the mountains. A wave of scorching air came rolling in from every side. He startled. Could it be them? Those ancient existences? Seeing the anomaly, the soldiers ran forward in concern. He hurriedly waved them back. The moment he finished, the whole situation descended into chaos. As if from the plains, as if from within the mountains, even as if from the depths of the horizon, came a deafening roar. Even the earth shook violently under the rampage of some primordial power. A trail of magical energy tore across the sky. Yet even that was nowhere near enough to stop a blow so full of rage. Even so, it struck one crucial target: the stone wall of Winterfort. Vincent was shaken to the core by the sight, unable to believe the prince had stopped that thing. But anxiety rose in him at once. Even though this battle was won, Winterfort's wall was breached. If an orc host bore down now, Winterfort would be in dire peril. He turned to look toward the prince, only to find him already collapsed unconscious in the snow, drained of strength. Arwen was thrown into a panic. But no matter how she called, he did not respond. She could not even find his pulse. Her hand stroked his face gently, softly begging the man who seemed asleep to open his eyes. But still he did not respond. The next moment, she bent down and began a method of resuscitation she had seen once before. 5 minutes passed. A mouthful of dark blood came up from him. Arwen sank down onto the ground. Relief showed plainly on her face. He is breathing again at last. He looked so fragile and helpless just then, and a maiden's heart stirred without her knowing. Just then, Vincent came running up. Arwen felt an instant displeasure, thinking she would have to put him in his place given the chance. Just then, a faint call came from below her. "Arwen, hurry. Hurry and finish off these damned orcs. Only a dead orc is a good orc. To hell with honor. This hurts like death." The moment he finished, he passed out completely. Vincent asked curiously what he had said. Arwen raised the sword at her hip. "His Highness said only a dead orc is a good orc. And I believe His Highness is entirely correct." And so a fresh round of battle broke out. A long while later, he finally woke. "Are you feeling better, Your Highness?" "Right now everything hurts, my arms too, but this hurts more." With that, he laid a hand over his own chest. At that thought he wilted. At this rate, in what year will I go find them myself? Thanks to your highness, we stand here whole. We thank you sincerely. Just then, Vincent recounted what had happened after he fell unconscious. Though Winterfort's wall was breached, it was not a force Winterfort could not withstand. But what exactly was that enormous spear? And that roar from within the mountains? The answer to that question is a king. The others could not believe it because challenging their leader was in the orcs' nature. Given the chance, they would challenge their own chieftain without hesitation. Then do you know what they call the king of the orcs? Vincent was at a loss. There is probably no fixed title for that. He shook his head lightly. It craves battle. It craves trampling. It is also a creature of extreme greed. Its only goal is to conquer everything. And the name of that savage overlord they call the warlord. This man plainly said only one offhand sentence, and unexpectedly caused his uncle to transform entirely. The title warlord. He reported the matter to his uncle at once. Learning of it, his uncle immediately summoned his commanders to discuss it. A while later, he could bear it no longer. About the figure called the Lord of the Orcs. And there are a few matters I need your help with. The next moment, a great stack of documents was set before him. Night deepened quickly. Having settled most of the work, everyone was satisfied. Then he noticed his uncle had not left. He asked in confusion whether the man had something to say to him. His uncle nodded. Was what you displayed the power of the martial soul hymn you spoke of? I could feel those blue flames were full of power. The destruction they showed far exceeded your mana reserves. He nodded in reply. And what do you think, now that you have seen it? His uncle fell into a thoughtful silence. He understood at once. But just then his uncle spoke. He laughed. You really are greedy. Do you not already have a more stable and simpler way of accumulating mana, and still you covet the martial soul hymn? Reaching the extraordinary realm through the martial soul hymn. But did you not once want to teach me the power of the martial soul hymn? There must be a way. And now my uncle has come to this. He was so utterly dismissive of it before. With that, he slowly rose. You know of the elven race. They are obsessed with the martial soul hymn. Because they cannot compose hymns themselves, they often borrow and use the hymns of others. Because they have the sword dance, they can perform their sword dance to the rhythm of a hymn. And what I mean to say is this. Even if you personally cannot compose and sing a hymn, you may still be able to recite one. That is not a mana heart. But have you not spent your whole life cultivating something? Mana rings have the property of resonating with one another, so I wonder whether it might serve as an excellent instrument. At that point, he stopped precisely where he should, because this was a road that had to be explored by the knights who possessed mana rings themselves. But the next moment, he sensed something was off. Why has even Arwen fallen into deep thought? Never mind them, I am going back to sleep. With that, he lay down and drifted off. But before long, a nightmare woke him. Adelia had long been keeping watch beside him. Where has he gone? He left the moment you went to rest. And was there anything unusual about him when he left? Adelia said she could not be sure, but he had looked deeply troubled. Could it be he grasped nothing in particular? Though achieving obvious results from the very start is never easy. Before he finished the thought, his uncle appeared before him again. So you are finally awake. And seeing his uncle now, he was stunned. An overwhelming presence utterly without fear, one that would not retreat before 10,000 soldiers. This is the spirit of a swordmaster. It seems he has finally gained a soul worthy of his body. Thanks to you, this rotting old man has had his eyes opened. Thank you sincerely, Idrian. The words embarrassed him. He thought, those two really are identical, father and son. Judging by your face, are you sulking? He shook his head, unbothered. I have nothing to sulk about. 400 years ago, I was a blade no one dared face. Though why does this man's face grow more insufferable by the day? So annoying. With that, he sighed. Now tell me what exactly you gained. His uncle nodded. I have not fully grasped this recitation you speak of. I have only a vague direction in my heart. So for now, I intend to press forward in that direction. Just then, he threw cold water over him. Do not think I cannot see that your target is that bastard in the mountains, but he is my target. Do not go drooling over him for no reason. His uncle laughed. Then he is yours. The next day came. Why do you understand orcs so well? And where did you get your information about elves? He was speechless. Why is this man suddenly posturing? Where has the taciturn uncle of old gone? Just then a scout came running in panic. The orc host had moved. More than 1,000 orcs were surging toward Winterfort. The rangers gathered at once, arrows on strings, eyes fixed on the snowfield before them. His uncle's eyes were fixed on the orc army as well. The aura radiating from one of them filled everyone present with restlessness and unease. I never imagined orcs could hold such soaring fighting spirit. Could that be the orc warlord you spoke of? He shook his head slightly. It is the vanguard the warlord sent. It is one of the most savage among the orcs who serve the warlord. It is the bravest general, the nightmare of knights and swordmasters. It is the commander of the combat corps. The Night Slayer, the Night Stalker. The orc siege was finally about to begin, and so was the battle between him and the Night Stalker. Just as human knights use mana, what orcs use they call battle aura. To gain stronger battle aura, they must take part in countless battles. But sometimes aberrants are born already possessing powerful battle aura. They perceive battle aura better than any orc, and are more faithful than ordinary orcs to the instinct that craves slaughter. Their physical eyes are also transformed into heaven's eyes, able to see the invisible energy in the air. So the Night Stalker is a born commander. Because it has eyes that see through everything, not even the smallest weakness escapes them. His uncle startled. You have never been wrong before, but does it truly deserve so arrogant a title as Night Slayer? With that, he poured mana into a long spear without pause until it let out a mournful ringing. Then he hurled the spear at the Night Stalker with all his strength. The Night Stalker within the orc host merely gave a soft snort and blocked that all-out strike without the slightest effort. The spear fell to the ground, ringing with a mournful clang of metal. The soldiers of Winterfort could not believe their eyes. Just then, the Night Stalker pulled the spear out of the snow and threw it back at his uncle as though carelessly. It seems it has a nature that never admits defeat. Then he looked at the prince. You have already thought of a way to deal with this Night Stalker, have you not? He asked in confusion what made him think so. His uncle laughed helplessly. I can see it in your face. After all, right now you look exactly like a knight who has just received a peerless blade. He coughed awkwardly. I have indeed thought of a way to deal with this Night Stalker, though this Night Stalker is already considered patient compared to other orcs. It will still be unable to resist charging in like a starving tiger, and here I am the tastiest morsel. But the risk is too great. As I said before its heaven's eyes, small tricks are useless. At this moment, my team and I are the perfect choice. Deal with it, and the rest is no threat at all. But having your highness serve as bait is still far too dangerous. Winterfort can drive back the enemy without this perilous plan. Besides, the wounds you took last time have not healed. He said at once that those wounds were all healed, even though in truth they still hurt like death. But they should not affect the coming battle. With that, he looked at Vincent before him. The time we have left is short. The true enemy is not the Night Stalker before us. While we argue over this, that existence is gradually revealing itself and closing in on Winterfort. We must end this battle as fast as we can, otherwise the only end waiting for Winterfort is to fall. His uncle understood there was no better plan now. I will deploy the troops as fast as I can. He smiled and said there was no problem. It is also time to send out my secret weapon, Adelia. Before dawn the next day, they began the plan. Though they were attacking first, the sole objective was to draw out the orc commander, and to stall for as much time as possible. At his uncle's single command, the fury of Winterfort swept toward the orc host. Countless orcs died beneath that volley of arrows, but they raised their shields, and the arrow storm's force fell off sharply. Because those were the shields of Balahad's own soldiers, those bastards dare to carry the relics of our knights. At the sight, his uncle flared up too, and ordered the soldiers to keep firing. But there were simply too many orcs, and they had reached the wall. Arwen was the first out of the ranks. A single stroke reaped the lives of several orcs. The soldiers thrust their spears down at the climbing orcs as well. The battle ran from dawn to dusk. But the orc host outnumbered Winterfort's soldiers by far. Their numbers did not drop at all, and there was no sign of the target, the Night Stalker. His heart sank. Winterfort's soldiers were on the edge of exhaustion. It seems it is time to release the delicious bait that is me. With that, he drew the longsword in his hand, then chanted the hymn, the Requiem. An immense mana enveloped him at once. That pure energy made the Night Stalker, who had been watching the battlefield all along, snap its eyes wide. Wicked energy erupted. Unease immediately gripped the hearts of everyone in Winterfort. He smiled faintly. It seems the plan has worked. As easy to read as ever. Let us see how you differ from the last generation. Simply because a trait in that woman's bloodline was activated. The man's own heart could not help but tremble. The orcs were straining with everything they had to climb Winterfort's walls. The snowy peaks were silent, the walls stained with blood. They seemed to know no fatigue and to care nothing for their losses. And Winterfort's soldiers had long been on the edge of exhaustion. It ran straight for the west wall where he stood, its aim unmistakable. The soldiers on the west wall hurried to block its path to him. But he pushed them aside and stepped up onto the wall. The longsword in his hand pointed straight down at the orc below. "You green-furred trash, I have waited a long time for you." Seeing his aim achieved, he ordered everyone to act according to plan. In an instant, everyone withdrew from the west wall. Before long, the Night Stalker had climbed onto it. "The king has commanded. The most important thing is to kill you first." He laughed. "You think you alone can kill me? Puny humans truly know nothing of their place." It took a sudden strike from him, but the great sword in its hand blocked it. He used the force to fall back an open distance, then gathered mana in his legs and charged it again. Before long, the orc's body was covered in wounds. "Stop using these petty tricks. They have not the slightest effect on me. Only a fight with everything given is worthy of glory." He gathered mana into the longsword in his hand again and charged the Night Stalker once more. "Your spirit truly is excellent. I hope the taste of your blood is just as lovely." He gave a wicked smile. The Night Stalker still did not understand what the man opposite was laughing at. The next moment it was covered by a great net. Winterfort's soldiers around it hauled the net tight with all their strength. The Night Stalker flew into a rage. "You bastard, how dare you defile this sacred duel?" he sneered. "What would you green-skinned orcs know about sacred?" With that, a stroke came down on the Night Stalker's enormous foot. At the sight, every soldier of Winterfort was fired up as if injected with new blood. They dragged the Night Stalker straight out into the square. Before long, he arrived at the square as well. "That posture suits you rather well. Sprawled on the ground like that is a proper look for an orc, and if you were dead, it would be better still." Just then, the Night Stalker suddenly sprang up and attacked him. But its blow did not scratch him at all. It was blocked effortlessly by his uncle. "I thought you ugly when I saw you from a distance. I never imagined you would be this hideous up close." Then he signaled that he would take over from here. "Go and do what you need to do. But do not take too long, because I cannot promise it will still be alive by then." With that, his uncle opened his aura fully and threw himself at the Night Stalker. Man and beast locked together at once. He was somewhat worried. Though his uncle was already a quadruple chain knight who had reached the realm of blade and heart as one. The Night Stalker's eyes were what they called Heaven's eyes. For his uncle to kill it alone was a pipe dream. But there was one person very well suited to be its opponent, and that person was Adelia. "Now it is your turn to take the stage. The owner of this blood is your opponent." The next moment, the war maniac trait within Adelia was activated. The body that had curled up in fear no longer trembled, and a savage, delirious smile spread across her face. The butcher trait was activated as well. He could not help breaking into a cold sweat. Any one of these traits alone is terrifying enough, and now they bloom at once. Thinking of the fate awaiting the Night Stalker, even his own heart trembled on its behalf. That woman had merely made her first move, and already left his uncle violently shaken. He finally understood why the Night Stalker was called a Night Slayer. The trajectory of his blade was read completely. But that too was a worthy challenge. As he thought it and prepared to charge the Night Stalker again, he suddenly heard a great crash behind him. Then Adelia appeared. Without the slightest pause, she launched herself at the Night Stalker. His uncle startled. The orc she attacked flew into a rage as well. What it wanted was a fair duel, and instead it had been ambushed again and again. Do knights these days have no sense of honor at all? It cursed and swore. But Adelia understood not a word of that bird language. She only knew to bring her blade down on the orc before her again and again, until for a moment it could barely hold on. The sight left his uncle stunned. This is a state close to a berserker. Even facing an existence that would give a swordmaster trouble, Adelia's butcher trait would simply grind every enemy in her sight into pieces. Every action served only that end, so the strokes she used were chaotic and without order. Before long, the Night Stalker's body was covered in wounds. Fear stirred in its heart because the thing before it was not a person at all. She neither dodged nor blocked its attacks. Compared to her, it was the lesser beast. At that point, he decided it was time for him to stand aside and look impressive. But his uncle would give him no such fine chance to look impressive. The whole group rushed in, opening a righteous gang beating on the Night Stalker. The Night Stalker flew into a rage at the sight. When I said one-on-one, I did not mean me against all of you. In that moment, it finally stopped concealing itself. Its heaven-piercing cultivation was laid bare. Heaven and earth changed color at once. Under that pressure, the only one left standing was his uncle. He was stunned, wondering what on earth the thing before him was. He explained, "Those auras were the fighting spirit of the orcs. The Night Stalker was gathering the will of every orc on the battlefield into this place. But that was no simple feat. The moment he finished, he noticed something wrong, because all that fighting spirit belonged to the Night Stalker itself. It was merely taking it back. He could restrain himself no longer and gave the order to attack. Adelia charged out like a rabid dog. He prepared to display his full strength as well. But just as he was about to chant a hymn, he sensed a strange aura. Then a wave of orc fighting spirit surged up from the horizon. It formed into a great hand that slammed him down into the ground. Must it truly end here? Before long, his uncle noticed something was wrong with him. He saw the man grip the longsword in his hand and speak words the prince could make no sense of. Pile the green corpses into a small mountain until a lake of crimson forms beneath it. As the last words left his uncle's mouth, the mana around him began to swell. The pressure crushing him like 1,000 tons suddenly eased. It even resonated with the mana heart inside him. With each cycle of his uncle's chanting, a feeling he had never known rose from the depths of his chest. And he was not the only one affected. At that moment, whether Vincent or Arwen or the Knights of Winterfort, all of them felt the same thing. It was exhilaration and it was defiance. It was still far from the level of a true hymn, but the longing and sorrow it held were in no way inferior to one. The next moment, he took his uncle's war song, recorded it, and refined it. As the last line left him, snow the size of goose down suddenly began to fall from the sky. The great war song, the winter hymn, was born into this world. A surging aura poured out of him. Seeing things go badly, the Night Stalker tried to strike first. He only gave a contemptuous smile. A slight lift of the hand split the Night Stalker into two. Blood poured endlessly from its mouth. It understood that today it was likely finished. Staring at the man before it, its heart turned all the more vicious. What harm in giving everything for the king? 1 second, the man had driven back the orcs with everything he had. The next, he was outplayed by that wicked woman. The unbeatable Night Stalker had just been defeated by a single stroke from him. And as it prepared to self-destruct, he added another stroke at exactly the right moment. And so the unbeatable Night Stalker died. Under the winter hymn's blessing, the knights fought more fiercely with every moment. He ordered a number of knights to hold the wall, and the rest to ride out and meet the orcs. As for the prince, everyone was astonished beyond words, because this was only his third battle. The sight of his back moving forward drew every eye. Whether the knights he had chosen himself, or the seasoned ranger captains, or even the fierce, unyielding knights of the north, every one of them submitted to that wild and powerful heartbeat. A heartbeat that did not feel like their own. By the time they finally came to themselves, the inside and outside of Winterfort were carpeted with orc limbs. The fruit of victory was theirs at last. It all seemed to have been within his grasp. The orc's banner was broken. The knights let out an earth-shaking cheer. Snow slipped quietly from the branches, but their hearts were lighter than they had ever been. His uncle marveled that a battle hymn really was inconceivable. But before he finished, he too collapsed, unable to hold on. That battle had taken everything from every one of them. And at that moment, on a distant mountain peak, then should I not give you a little something in return? With that, her gaze turned to the orcs behind her. Slow your steps a little more. Give him more time to grow. Even with all of Balahad's forces gathered, they were still gravely outnumbered. At this rate, Winterfort falling was only a matter of time. But would the great Balahad truly request reinforcements? You have not exaggerated the situation in your report, have you? I know it is hard to believe, so we have brought proof. As the ranger finished speaking, another opened the wooden crate they had brought. The head of an orc legion commander. Its build is more than twice that of an ordinary orc. The first prince calls it the king of the orcs. The enemy force confirmed so far consists of 8 elite legions, at least 25,000 of them. But the first prince has held a sword for less than a year. A king of orcs is hardly anything remarkable. Perhaps it truly is large, but it can be little different from an ordinary orc. Before the fat man finished, another cut him off. The devotion of House Balahad is known throughout the kingdom. For 100 years they have quietly held the north. How dare you slander them? The two nobles fell to arguing right in front of the king. Just as it neared its peak, the king stopped them. They are not the sort of men to speak recklessly. If they say the situation is grave, then I fear it is worse than we imagine. The largest possible number of troops and supplies must be provided and sent north. Send every one of them north. Let them serve on the battlefield and wash away their crimes. Hearing that, the ranger captain could not feel glad at all. Suddenly a loud shout cut through the captain's thoughts. Someone had dared to shout in the sovereign's presence, to turn a blind eye to that devotion and loyalty. So I beg your majesty, allow me to lead my knights north in support. The second Prince Maximilian had arrived, and two brothers who had never met were finally about to meet. Night fell quickly. Prepare mercenaries and keep them on standby. When the time comes, you will lead them to reinforce Winterfort. Winterfort is a place that absolutely cannot be lost. Maximilian bowed and said he would see it done. But if your majesty had long intended to dispatch the central army, then why? If I had readily agreed to send the central army then, we would easily have been saddled with the charge of conspiring with House Balahad to raise a rebel army. That is a pretext we absolutely cannot bear at present. And you must continue to walk the bright road. Only then will those still loyal to House Leon naturally gather around you. And only then will an opportunity be found. To achieve that, the North must not fall now. Maximilian said he would certainly protect the North. But that is no easy thing. Idrian, in the future, the North will even become your enemy. The second prince did not understand his father's meaning. They are all of the royal family. How could they become enemies? Have you forgotten how he sold this country's future to the empire? That scene is still as vivid to me as if it were yesterday. Every time I close my eyes, it winds around me night after night. With his own hands, he broke the sharp blade of this country. And that grating laughter I have never forgotten either. But he has rendered great service at Winterfort. The king only shook his head lightly. Those loyal knights will never come back. Those lords will surely hear of it soon and interfere. Set out for the north before they do, because the second Prince Maximilian was still striding resolutely on ahead of them, the second prince of the kingdom. The march was so punishing that no small number of the mercenaries had fallen behind, and still he walked. Elsham, deputy commander of the Iron Lion Knights, came forward to suggest they stop and rest. Maximilian shook his head. Every second we delay is another degree of danger for Winterfort. Keep moving. Elsham was about to explain something, when a crowd of figures appeared ahead. The second prince wondered whether they were refugees fleeing Winterfort. Then he signaled Elsham to send someone to investigate. Are you people fleeing from Balahad? The man questioned nodded. Count Balahad ordered the evacuation long ago. The second prince's face sank. If the evacuation of civilians began that long ago, it meant Count Balahad himself believed Winterfort could not survive this crisis and had prepared in advance for its fall. His chest tightened, and he immediately ordered a forced march at full speed. But marching through a blizzard was hardly easy. The wind and snow soon swallowed the army. But just then everyone suddenly heard a rough, hearty song, and a patrol appeared before the second prince and his men. Elsham simply could not believe these were the knights who guarded Winterfort. Do the books not say Winterfort's knights are all hot-tempered and silent? What is this column before me? Have the books been lying to me? You must be the reinforcement sent from the capital. As it happens, our patrol duty is finished. Would you like us to guide you? The second prince nodded gladly, but he regretted the decision almost immediately. The whole way, Jordan bellowed at the top of his lungs. Elsham even began hearing things, feeling his ears had been assaulted. The second prince also asked in confusion what everyone was shouting about. Jordan explained that they were not shouting, but singing the Winter Hymn, a new marching song added to the Third Army. Singing it warms you right up, so we always sing it with enthusiasm on the march. And this song was composed by His Highness the First Prince. Come to think of it, the day he arrived, the blizzard raged just like this. He carried a soldier who had fallen behind on his back and walked the entire day. I am glad we do not have to do that anymore. He had never imagined his own brother would do such a thing. It astonished the second prince. And these men could not say 3 sentences without mentioning his brother, always with an unusually warm and respectful tone. Before long, Winterfort was in sight. The blizzard stopped. It made us suffer so much, and the moment we arrive, it stops. Come to think of it, the day the first prince arrived was the same. You really should have seen him stamping and cursing. But let us save that for later. For now, allow me to properly introduce you to the strongest fortress in the north, Winterfort. The second prince turned his eyes toward it, and his face immediately turned the color of pig's liver. Patches of hasty repairs were everywhere. Beside them lay orc corpses not yet cleared away. Steam was still rising from the pools of blood. All of it said an extraordinarily fierce battle had just taken place here. Just then someone called Jordan's name, and the prince appeared before them all. He asked in confusion what Jordan was doing rooted before the gate. "Are you slacking off again?" Jordan hastily protested his innocence. "We only just got back from patrol. Some brats gave us trouble on the road, so we had to use our hands a little." Just then he finally noticed the second prince beside them. The anger vanished from his face in an instant, replaced by blooming flowers. "Are these people reinforcements from the capital as well?" Jordan hurriedly introduced the second prince, but seeing the blank look on the second prince's face, Jordan went blank too. The first prince not remembering the second is one thing, since he supposedly hit his head. But why does the second prince not seem to recognize the first either? Are these two truly brothers by blood? Looking closely, the two of you really are very alike, as though carved from the very same mold. This man had gained another little admirer, and this admirer was his own blood brother. He said the boy had come at exactly the right time. The battle began 3 days ago, but it is over now. Then he noticed the constipated look on the second prince's face. "It may be uncomfortable at first, but stay here a while and you will get used to it. After a while, these corpses will actually make you feel more at ease." Talking as they went, they entered the castle, only to find his uncle and the others already waiting there. "It seems they came out to welcome you." The moment he finished, his uncle raised a hand. "House Balohad salutes the royal house of Leon." The second prince returned the salute respectfully. "Salutations to the shield of the north. To meet the kingdom's famed silver lion is my honor." The soldiers of Winterfort called out in unison, "Welcome to Balohad, to the eternal and unchanging bond of the royal house." The second prince's spirits soared. "The royal house will remember your struggle, your devotion, and your sacrifice." His uncle said the welcoming banquet was ready. The moment he sat down, the second prince was at a loss. He did not understand why his elder brother kept staring at him. "It has been 10 full minutes. Do your eyes not sting?" He shook his head. "Then could you tell me about Winterfort? Compared with the palace, how do you feel here?" He said he was very satisfied with the place. "Here I can fight without restraint, and there are plenty of monsters for practice." After all, on the road here he had seen no small number of orc corpses, and many of them were plainly not from this battle. His uncle explained that some were indeed very old. The scale differed each time, but never fewer than 500 in any single assault. The second prince was puzzled. If the fighting has always been like this, then should the orc forces not have suffered enormous losses? He answered no. "We wish it were so, but their numbers have not dropped in the slightest. They keep increasing." Elsham thought perhaps the first prince already had a countermeasure. The second prince nodded, still doubtful. "Though we are brothers by blood, we have not seen each other in a very long time. And the man he is now is entirely unlike what I have heard. Here he has won the recognition of many." Elsham shook his head. "Not long ago the first prince visited Iron Lion Castle. That day His Highness dueled our members dozens of times and did not lose once. Some of them came to treat him as an idol, and he looks to have improved even further since then." The second prince wondered why he had never heard of this. Because the first prince ordered it kept quiet. He seems not to want such things known outside. The second prince felt he had understood at last. Talent that does not exist cannot appear out of thin air. So my brother has been hiding his talent all along, even at the cost of becoming the wastrel every soul in the capital spits at. But why exactly does he hide it? Carrying that question, the group soon reached the meeting room. Elsham spoke first, asking about the Orc King. "As far as I know, no one has seen its true form with their own eyes, So could it be nothing more than a somewhat fiercer orc? He and the others sighed helplessly. Something flew here from beyond the mountains, and that was the spear the Orc King wields. Seeing that enormous spear, everyone startled, but it still seemed impossible. Perhaps the monsters simply used a ballista. Then let me ask you a question. Do you believe there is a machine that could hurl this spear here? Or that there is a single monster that threw its own weapon this far? If you still do not understand, then please leave. This is not a place for chattering. I did not mean to doubt you. Your words are simply too astonishing. I apologize for my rudeness just now. His uncle stepped in to smooth things over. Let us rest for a while. We will discuss the rest in an hour. He sighed helplessly and was about to leave when the second prince called him back. He nodded. I have always been interested in these ancient legends. Though this excuse holds together surprisingly well, stabbing myself to death while showing off a legendary sword, and now cultivating an outdated mana heart. Is that not the perfect picture of a man obsessed with legends? And after meeting the second prince, he also understood why the king regarded his eldest son as a thorn in his eye. After all, with an heir as perfect as the second prince. Upright and kind goes without saying, and his character is gentle without lacking resolve. He has the potential to be a genius in many fields. If my friend Leon had the makings of an iron-blooded sovereign, then Maximilian is a man of rare gifts with the qualities of a wise king. But the age that is coming is one that cannot be met with wisdom alone, especially now with that wicked elf who eats men and spits out no bones. It is certain that an even more chaotic age is descending, and this sovereign will be forced to walk forward through that chaos. This timid lamb must transform into a lion before it can butcher this pack of wolves, and no one is better suited to that role than I. Because I was once the bystander who witnessed countless wars and ages of chaos, and also the one who ended countless wars and ages of chaos. This man merely moved a little, and left mercenaries of 100 battles convinced. With the soldiers the second prince brought, Winterfort's defensive burden eased greatly. But Vincent split them into many small squads and folded them into Winterfort's own guard. Though this stirred fierce discontent among the soldiers, it was an entirely necessary measure. One misstep and the affair would be embellished by scheming men into contempt for royal authority. Even so, the defense of the walls could not be handed wholly to men who had almost never fought orcs. Though I imagine that once the orcs mount a full assault, those soldiers will have no spare thoughts for such things. With that, he looked at his uncle. Now can you tell me what you are playing at? His uncle kept playing dumb, asking what he meant. What I mean is why you have pushed all this unrelated work onto me. But is it not precisely because of that they have realized how important your standing in Balohad is? Nonsense, then what about the rest? Lately you seem to have left every last piece of paperwork to your son. His uncle fell silent at once. After a long while, he finally spoke. All this time I believed my road had reached its end, but your appearance made a wholly new road appear before me. I want to walk that road to pick up my aged ambition, and as a knight to fight that warlord you speak of. The word surprised him. He had not expected it to be for this reason. I thought you felt you were finished and meant to step down for someone worthier, but I advise you to abandon that idea. You could not even defeat the Night Slayer on your own, let alone a warlord dozens of times stronger. His uncle was not discouraged in the least. It is precisely because of that I have seen the road ahead clearly and realized what I must do from now on. You get stranger by the day, do you know that? You are less a general now than an old teacher of several decades. Just then an urgent horn suddenly sounded. The instant they heard it, Winterfort soldiers entered a state of readiness. It was something they had gone through every day for half a month, and it meant the orcs were preparing another assault. The second prince and the force he had brought fell into disarray. They had probably not expected a new round of war to begin this quickly. Fortunately, Winterfort's soldiers were always at the ready. But when he turned and saw the second prince standing there dazed, he flew into a rage. What are you still doing standing here? Very soon the new round of war broke out in earnest. The orcs used the corpses of their own kind as shields and climbed step by step. Before long, they were on Winterfort's walls again. Winterfort's soldiers fought them to the death atop the ramparts. Seeing such a scene for the first time, the second prince froze. A battle this brutal, and to them it happens every single day. Before he could finish the thought, he was yanked aside. The next instant, an orc axe grazed past his face. He roared that this was no time to be distracted. They will attack the knights in the finest clothing first. If you die, the orcs' morale will soar, and this battle will become far more troublesome. If you intend to keep standing there dazed, then please go home." That sobered the second prince somewhat. He immediately made to lead his soldiers into the fight, but he was stopped outright. The wall is too narrow. If too many stand up there, movement becomes chaos. The second prince ordered his soldiers to stand by where they were. Only knights could take part in this battle. Just then a familiar voice rang out among the mercenaries. "Since our last parting, His Highness the First Prince has grown even more imposing. It has been a long time since we saw you as well." Though he had guessed there would be knights disguised as mercenaries, he had not expected so many. "With this many, we can leave this place to them for now. Let us go do what we are meant to do." The battle with the orcs quickly reached white heat. The knights who had come as reinforcements were all near the edge of exhaustion. But the orc host seemed endless. Even with orcs falling every second, a rough count still left over 1,000, and the number of men on the wall was thinning. Looking closely, not a single knight of Winterfort could be seen. As the second prince puzzled over this, a series of sounds came from the front gate, only to see a company of Winterfort knights standing there with the prince. The second prince's heart filled with confusion. He could not understand what these men were doing at the gate. Do these madmen intend to open it and welcome the orcs in? While he was still puzzled, the prince ordered the soldiers to open the gate. The orcs immediately poured in like a tide. At the same moment, he began to chant a hymn. A dazzling radiance rose around him at once and gradually enveloped everyone. The second prince was shaken beyond words, unable to understand what he was seeing. Besides, that song was plainly the marching song of the Third Army he had heard before. Countless knights joined the chant. The aura around them climbed higher and higher, gradually turning into a force. The knights experiencing this for the first time fell into confusion, unable to understand what the energy surging inside them was, and hurried to suppress it. But the second prince understood. The nobles far away in the capital had always said he stole his uncle's achievements, that he was only an incompetent, brutal scoundrel, that he could not catch even a goblin, let alone an orc, that his existence meant nothing to this country and brought nothing but harm. Even now, he did not know whether to believe those words. But one thing was certain. Because this unbelievable, blood-stirring thing was happening right before his eyes. "Let us join them as well." Elshim shook his head. "Our knights are utterly spent. To go out and meet the enemy now would be recklessness rather than courage." That filled the second prince with confusion. His rank was hardly far from the knights. And yet these knights already had exhaustion written on their faces. On the first prince's side, the orcs storming the fortress had been wiped out entirely. The orcs' banner was broken, and became the collection of brave knights. The knights' cheers rose in waves, shaking the white snow quietly from the branches. Antoine, captain of the mercenaries, did not understand what was happening either. Is this height truly one a man with a mana heart can reach? Besides, everyone in the capital says he is inferior to his younger brother. Yet what I see now is nothing like what I heard. Just then a knight cut through his thoughts. "His Highness the First Prince wishes to meet you privately after the field is cleared." Antoine nodded. Though he did not understand what the prince wanted with him, he answered that he understood. "Let me peel you open slowly and see what exactly you are hiding." This man merely chanted one hymn, and left mercenaries of 100 battles violently shaken. He had just shattered the orc force, and turned around at once to find Vincent and brag. "I now have 19 orc banners. Yes, you are wonderful. Are you satisfied? Though I have 26. The road to catching up with me is still long, Your Highness. A legion's banner ought to be worth 10 ordinary ones, so I have 28. By Your Highness's arithmetic, I have 35, so you still have a very long road ahead." "You are not joking, are you? Just getting these nearly killed me." After all, those banners had taken the commander years to collect. And did Your Highness not just say these orcs were not even fit to get stuck in your teeth? How could you be tired? And the second prince was watching all this quietly from a distance, filled with a feeling he could not name. He had never imagined that a prince of a nation could joke with lowly soldiers. But the feeling was not bad at all, because for all the casualness with which his brother treated them, their eyes were still full of respect. They grumbled and joked, yet never once disobeyed his orders. Just then, Antoine came up behind the second prince. "It is wonderful to see you safe as well. This was plainly your first battle, and still you fought so bravely." As Antoine said it, admiration shone in his eyes. Meeting that gaze, the second prince understood at once. They were proud of him. Everyone he had met in the capital was strikingly alike, and he had been like a child, forever pleased with himself. A feeling of having nowhere to hide his face flooded through him. While his brother had become a man acknowledged by everyone, just then the members of the Iron Lion Knights came up behind him. "May we go and formally greet the first prince?" The second prince nodded deeply. "Of course you may." "Then thank you, Your Highness." "Your Highness was truly magnificent just now. It seems your skill has grown finer and colder and more merciless as well." He asked the members of the Iron Lion Knights why they had come here, and disguised as mercenaries at that. And that was exactly what the second prince had been wondering. At first he had not understood why they would go that far, hiding even the glorious name of the Iron Lion Legion to come here. But now he understood everything. In the capital there are only banquets, while in the north one great battle follows another. Those orcs we once thought insignificant have quietly built an entire kingdom. The bloodline of Leon Burke is taking root and sprouting there, and slowly growing into a towering tree. Not one of those people in the capital could have imagined this. Night fell quickly. Antoine came to his tent. "To meet you like this is my honor. I am Antoine, and I lead a small mercenary company." He waved off the formalities, then asked whether Antoine had a contract with the crown. "We have already signed a long-term contract." "And what are your plans after that?" "Your Highness jests. A mercenary who could die at any moment has no such plans." "Then will you sign with me?" But Antoine shook his head. "Though our mercenary company is made of nameless nobodies, that does not mean we value only money." He laughed. "I never said money was all I could give you. One look tells me your mana was accumulated by crude methods. Sign with me and I will refine it properly for you. Then you will no longer be looked down on for using low techniques." A mana core that crude was built with the heavy impact refinement method at best. With energy like that, the road you can walk is nothing but a sandcastle built on impure mana. With that, he displayed his own mana. "We both have mana hearts, and though your rank is higher than mine, your mana and mine are as far apart as heaven and earth. If talk alone were enough, I would have become a swordmaster long ago." He had not expected the boy to remain this immovable even after such a display. He was about to propose a sparring match when Antoine spoke first. "But I believe what your Highness says." He nodded, satisfied. "This fellow really is different from those stubborn knights. I will grant you a title, and the term of the contract is until I become king." Then he told Antoine to display his mana. Antoine released his mana as well, shouting as he did so, "Blade that cuts iron like mud." The sight left him stunned. Stunned by how utterly worthless the man's mana was. "Did you not say it cuts iron like mud? Why can it not even cut through a dagger? It seems I have my work cut out for me." "This is the sword technique I have mastered, Your Highness. I only barely learned it after shadowing a high-ranking mercenary for half a year. I poured my entire fortune into it. It has saved my life several times, so I have no regrets. Do not tell me everyone else's sword techniques are like this too." Antoine said that although they differed in efficiency, most of them were much the same. The moment he heard it, he felt he was about to go mad. Whether sword techniques or hymns, such knowledge is usually passed down through generations within a single family or organization. That is done out of caution, because passing it to the unworthy lowers its rank. Even among kin of the same blood there is selection, and it is never passed to those of poor aptitude. And if it depends on buying and selling for money, then in the end even the most perfect art will gather dust for want of worthy heirs. It seems we must revise the terms of our contract. Let us change the term to 20 years. Antoine thought he had misheard. No mercenary in the world would sign such a contract. 20 years is practically a lifetime. He only smiled faintly and shook his head, then began to chant a hymn. At once an even purer mana coiled around him. The sight shook Antoine to his bones. He could not understand how, with the same mana heart, the man before him could be this powerful. "You were willing to spend half a year studying a technique that crude. Then you should understand the value of this hymn. Do you still find 20 years long? Of course, I will give you time to consider. But there is one thing you should understand. Your value at present is not worth waiting long for." That slender, delicate girl merely moved a little, and violently shook both the mercenaries and the knights of 100 battles. He went to Vincent's tent and asked for a few more men. Vincent was puzzled since his party already had plenty of scouts. He explained that this time he was going out not merely to scout, but chiefly to hunt. Vincent thought he had misheard. "You did not mishear. Rather than sit and wait for death, let us strike first. It has been nearly 2 months since the orcs' first assault, and we have pinned down the warlord for nearly 2 months. Why it has suddenly gone quiet these past days, I do not know, but so long as it is still called a warlord, it will act again. So we cannot simply sit and wait. But it is far too dangerous. If anything happened to your highness now, Winterfort could not bear it." He smiled and told him not to worry. "I believe when I first said I would go deal with the orc scouting force, you said exactly the same thing. And how did that turn out?" The words left Vincent with nothing to say and no excuse left to refuse. Still worried for his safety, he said he would assign more men. "If you refuse, this discussion is over." He said it made no difference to him. And this was Adelia's first deployment. Though he had expected her to be nervous, this was genuinely excessive. Still, it could not be helped, because this expedition had been arranged for her sake in the first place. Though she is a dangerous blade that cannot be thrown recklessly into any battle, she must be awakened into a true knight before the Great War begins. With that, he looked at the Iron Lion knights behind him. He asked, puzzled, whether they intended to come along as well. "Though I have brought your highness 2 capable men. This is the veteran mercenary Locke, and this is the veteran mercenary Jean. Before becoming mercenaries, they were mountain folk, so they are keenly attuned to everything in the mountains. Used well, they will be wings on a tiger for your highness. Do they intend to stay by my side and report my performance to Antoine?" At that thought, he found it rather funny. "Since it is decided, let us leave quickly. Linger any longer, and my uncle may say he is coming too." But the moment he said it, his uncle arrived. He wished he could slap himself for jinxing it. His uncle said he had only come to see them off. He let out a long breath inwardly. So he only came to see us off. Then he told his uncle he would slaughter the orcs until they wet themselves. "While I am away, guard my territory well for me." His uncle was equally annoyed and amused and said flatly, "I was guarding this land before you were born." Vincent said he would await the prince's triumphant return. He smiled faintly, then announced their departure. The party soon reached the middle slopes of the Blade Mountains, but before them appeared an ogre and a full company of orcs. The scout asked in confusion what they should do. Just then the ogre moved. Overwhelming pressure poured off its whole body. Howling strangely, it charged the orc squad before it. In an instant, it slaughtered a great swath of orcs. The orc squad leader flew into a rage and raised his blade to attack, only to be crushed by a single swipe of the ogre's hand. The orc company commander flew into a rage as well. Roaring, it charged the ogre, and his party stood watching the fine show from not far off. This orc's rank and technique are both considerable. It seems the ogre is about to collect its lunchbox. And he was not wrong. Against the orc's assault, the ogre quickly fell to the disadvantage. Watching this, the genes carved into the orc's blood began to stir restlessly. Just then, Adelia's butcher trait was stirred as well, and the longsword in her hand grew so hungry it twitched. He said it was not yet time for them to act. "The best moment for us is when both sides have crippled each other." Meanwhile, on the other side, countless orcs joined the fight as well. The ogre flew into a rage too. Its body began to swell. Before long, even its skin turned blood red. The sight left the soldiers dumbstruck. We have heard of chameleons, but never of a color-changing demon. He said this was the ogre's true form. It is a predator with an endless appetite, and a butcher by birth. That is also why it can stir Adelia's butcher trait. Then he signaled her to prepare. Adelia snapped into a combat stance at once. Waves of sword light wrapped around her. This was the swordsmanship Adelia had learned, and the light he knew so intimately. This is the swordsmanship she once used. A single stroke felled countless giants. And an ogre is in essence nothing but a remnant of ancient ruins, a species that inherited the blood of the extinct giants. So in its very bones it fears that light. Against Adelia's assault, it could not summon the slightest resistance, and Adelia's task was to wear the ogre's strength down. An ogre showing its butcher nature has strength on par with a swordmaster. For a mere sword expert like me, catching that thing would be absurd. But that is exactly why it is worth it. Because when a knight accomplishes the impossible, their renown rises like the noonday sun. Then he chanted the hymn of Genesis, only for a string of notices to appear. With your current capability, you cannot fully manifest the grandeur of the hymn of Genesis. Part of the hymn has been omitted. You need chant only one line which will correspond to half the hymn's content. That slender, delicate girl merely moved a little, and erupted with combat power rivaling a triple chain knight, and slew an ogre that many veteran knights were helpless against. At first, no one understood why the first prince had brought a maid along. Some even wondered whether she was brought up the mountain for amusement. And now the scene unfolding before them dissolved every question in their minds. No one had ever imagined a frail girl could unleash such force. But what astonished them even more was that the first prince could match that rabid dog assault, which only ever looked forward in perfect coordination. This was a stage belonging to the two of them alone. Others had no room whatsoever to intervene. Just then, Arwen reminded everyone to take aim at the orcs. 10,000 arrows fired into the orc force at once. Before the orcs could react, more than half were dead or wounded. Before long, only the orc captain remained. The sight left the Iron Lion Knights dumbstruck. Just then, the orc captain let out several furious roars. It is issuing you a challenge to a duel. It wishes to settle this with an open and honorable fight. The knight beside him turned his head in astonishment. The next moment, he saw the ogre being hacked into several pieces by Adelia, along with the deranged expression on her face. The sight left him rooted to the spot. He accepted the offer in the orc tongue as well. The orc's face immediately filled with astonishment, never imagining a human could speak the orc language. No matter how you praise me, I will not soften. So let us settle this with an open and honorable fight. The battle between man and beast broke out at once. In a heartbeat, they had exchanged dozens of blows, and dozens of wounds had opened on the orc's body. He could not believe his own eyes, because the energy radiating from the orc rivaled a veteran triple chain knight. And yet it was being suppressed at every turn by a boy. And that boy was the scoundrel prince every soul in the capital knew of, who had trained with a sword for barely a year, and yet defeated an orc on par with a triple chain this easily. That was a rather fine fight. With that, he took the orc captain's throat with a single stroke. Just then, Adelia came over and asked whether the battle was over. He nodded without hesitation. The next instant, he caught sight of her charging straight at him. The sight had him hurriedly throwing out a hand, signaling her to keep her distance. In that instant, one could almost hear a heart breaking. His Highness really is too cruel. After a brief rest, the force set out again. But whatever they did, they found few further traces of monsters. The Iron Lion Knights were puzzled. He explained it was all because of the ogre's blood. Its smell is unusually strong. Most monsters catching that scent fled or hid long ago. But if a monster smells an ogre and still does not flee, it means that monster is every bit as terrible as an ogre. Just then, the scout gave a light shake of his fist, then pointed ahead not far off. Several giant beasts appeared before them. Another great battle was about to erupt. In the days that followed, the group wandered the mountains and wiped out several tribes of high-grade monsters. Somewhere along the way, the hymn of rule began to evolve. Those who swear fealty offer part of their own karma and martial saint hymn to their master as tribute. And so he obtained one verse of a martial saint hymn called the Hymn of the Raven. But he was not pleased, because that verse echoed everywhere with a hunger that could never be satisfied. And considering that Adelia possessed the traits of butcher, war maniac, and glutton, could her hunger be a hunger for blood? He felt a splitting headache at once. But setting that aside, this journey had been a fine harvest. With that, he signaled everyone to head back. Before long, they reached the outskirts of Winterfort. But by now, Winterfort was ringed by orc forces without a single gap. At the sight, everyone looked to him, asking what they should do next. He laughed and drew the longsword in his hand. Is what we should do not perfectly clear? We charge through. I will take the point. The rangers in the middle. This time we leave not a single one alive. The man had been the useless prince spat upon by the whole capital, and now he had become the spiritual anchor of Winterfort's soldiers. Winterfort had fallen into a bitter fight after a long reprieve. The soldiers' morale was lower than it had ever been, though Vincent kept waving the banner and shouting beside them. The effect was still negligible. It made people think of how it would be if the first prince were here. He would surely have led the soldiers out long ago and finished the fight in short order. Much as they hated to admit it, Winterfort was shaken now for want of one man alone. Somewhere along the way, everyone had come to want to follow in his footsteps. Every soldier wanted to lay down his head and spill his blood for him. Just then, Vincent noticed with a start that the orcs' assault had slowed. That astonished him, because by all reason this was when the orcs' offensive should be at its height. Just then, a soldier discovered that the rear of the orc force was under attack, and the one attacking was the first prince just returned from the mountains. He even took down the orc legion's leader in a single stroke. Cheers erupted through Winterfort at once. The soldiers' morale climbed steadily. The sight made Vincent begin to wonder whether he was truly Winterfort's commander at all. After all, he had just shouted himself hoarse, and these men had remained listless. And yet His Highness merely showed his face, and their morale soared, and they were fighting each other to charge out of the gate and follow in his steps. And he, the commander, had not even given the order. Though slightly annoyed, Vincent still ordered the gate opened, then charged the orcs together with the soldiers. And in that moment, the horn of Winterfort's counterattack sounded in full. It was a sight no one could believe. The very instant he stepped onto the battlefield, Winterfort's morale surged. And the orcs who called themselves indomitable lost all will to fight once their leader fell and began to scatter. Winterfort had become the victor of this battle. The horn of victory sounded. And somewhere along the way, the second prince's outlook had shifted a little as well. He began to join the song celebrating the triumphant return. It was not for Winterfort alone, but also for his own growth. But the cheering did not last long. The ground of Winterfort began to shake in waves. Then a strange feeling rose from the depths of everyone's heart. This was the aura radiating from the orc warlord. That it could reach even here meant it was drawing ever closer to Winterfort. The party soon returned to Winterfort and recounted the results of the trip. The expedition had killed 14 ogres in all. The tally astonished Vincent. Still, he was curious why there was only one head. And only 4 hides. He was a little helpless about that. Those had been wrested with great difficulty from Adelia's hands. Had he been a moment slower, they too would have been minced into paste by her. Then he added that in the mountains he had also defeated an elite orc combat unit. Add the orc legion leader I just killed, and my tally should be higher than yours now. That set the soldiers beside them calculating, and they had an answer very quickly. The first prince, 39 points. Vincent, 36 points. It seems I have won. His Highness has indeed won. Who would have thought the captain would still lose after years of collecting? It seems His Highness is a cut above. This does not count. You only picked up the leftovers after we did all the work. How pitiful. Does the captain not even have the courage to admit defeat? Which side are you rotten brats on? Have you all forgotten who your captain is? You will of course always be the best captain we have, but a loss is a loss. Does that mean His Highness is now the greatest warrior of Winterfort? But just then his uncle cut in from the side. As I recall, I have 59 banners. It seems you still have a very long road ahead. It is not becoming for an old man to spoil the fun of the young. Besides, you have already retired. Do you not find it awkward? But a tally does not vanish into thin air. The road to becoming the greatest warrior is a long one yet. The words turned his face red, veins standing out on his forehead, but he still argued that a retired old man joining the young men's wager was against the rules. That set everyone roaring with laughter. The air was full of good cheer. It shook the second prince beside them profoundly, because not long ago these people had been trembling in fear at the warlord's approach, and yet the arrival of one man had suddenly changed it all. Could this be a battlefield commander's adaptability? Truly, the name is no exaggeration. But on this point the second prince was mistaken. One joke cannot shatter the stone weighing on everyone's heart. At most, it can lighten it. But for the present, that was enough. Will the north and the central region truly send no more reinforcements? I thought the southern lords had already dispatched theirs. The second prince found it hard to say, and explained that he had heard it from the troops he had joined up with. Because their routes differed, they had passed through the territories of different lords, and the lords of the north and center seemed to have no intention of sending troops at all. The words filled him with fury. If Winterfort falls, they are the next target. Do these damned fools truly not understand that? Just then his uncle stepped forward and motioned for him to calm down. Winterfort will never see the day it falls. He did not understand where his uncle found the nerve to say such a thing. Have you had another sudden enlightenment? His uncle shook his head lightly and said not yet. But it is nearly within reach. If only there were a little more time. Time truly is as cruel as ever. Still, you need not worry, because the Night Val has never lost a single battle against orcs. The great decisive battle with the orcs was finally about to begin, and he was about to set out on a new journey. The second prince had just drafted a fresh request for reinforcements in his own name. But will this truly be of use? He nodded with certainty. They may ignore a man of my disrepute and an uncle who publicly supports me, but not even 100 times their nerve would let them ignore a request from you, the second prince. After all, you are now the most likely man in the kingdom to inherit the throne. The only thing we need worry about is whether they arrive in time. On that, we must plan for the worst. I need you to build a new defensive line on Winterfort's outskirts, because whatever happens, the people of Winterfort will never abandon this place. But brother, you are not a man of Winterfort. If everything is as you say, then Winterfort's soldiers need you far more than they need me. So if that situation truly comes to pass, I beg you, brother, to lead them. He cut the second prince off with a faint smile. I once thought the bloodline of House Leon had long since rotted through. Now it seems at least one of them still carries burning blood in his veins. A few days passed. The orcs' assault, which had come every 4 days, suddenly stopped. That should have been good news, yet no one in Winterfort was at peace. Everyone could clearly feel it was like the calm before a storm. Each of them worked at their duties more earnestly, hoping to contribute a little more to the great battle to come. And his uncle was training with everything he had, preparing for the great battle ahead. The pleas for aid sent out remained as silent as stones dropped into the sea. What was comforting was that the pride of Balohad had not come late. They were the Knights of Balohad, the Black Lance Cavalry. The Black Lance Cavalry has returned from its mission in full. To meet your highness is my honor. Lord Vincent is forever boasting in his letters that charging shoulder to shoulder with you is the greatest thrill there is. On that I have a proposal. Your highness may not yet know that we of the Black Lance Cavalry are the finest chargers among Balohad's knights. So it is our sincere wish that one day we may charge shoulder to shoulder with you. A few days later, the orcs' assault finally arrived, and this time it was fiercer than ever before. Vincent reported beside him that there was still no word at all from any reinforcements. The words made everyone's heart sink. But that was not the most despairing part. The most despairing part was this. That orc hero who had risen above his race. The orc warlord had joined this assault as well. It merely stood there in silence, and Winterfort's soldiers could no longer summon any will to fight at all. The aura around it alone was enough to breed despair. Deep despair engulfed the whole of Winterfort in an instant. Just then the orc warlord moved. It lifted the enormous banner in its hand without the slightest effort, and threw it toward Winterfort as though it were nothing. It was plainly a casual blow. And yet not one soul in Winterfort dared to take it. The banner drove straight into Winterfort's watchtower, as though declaring that this place had been claimed. Everyone understood this was a taunt from the orc warlord. It seems we are being underestimated. Since we have received a gift, we can hardly fail to return it properly. As his uncle spoke, he called Vincent over to prepare a reply. But just then a soldier interrupted him, only to find that the prince had already climbed to the top of the watchtower. His eyes blazing as he stared at the orc banner before him. No one understood what he meant to do. Just then he drew the sword at his hip and brought it down in one stroke. The orc banner snapped clean through. Then he took hold of the banner. The battle has not begun, and I have already seized the enemy commander's banner. There has never been so beautiful an opening. The words left Vincent both annoyed and amused, unable to understand why the prince was so obsessed with banners. The soldiers nearby teased that this time His Highness might truly surpass the commander. After all, this banner was no ordinary banner, but the banner of the enemy's king, so its value should be worth at least 50 ordinary ones. Just then a horn suddenly sounded. It was the prince, sounding the charge from atop the watchtower. Snowy mountains and valleys of ice. Why do these blood-soaked walls still keep their silence? This was a hymn carried through the voice of a horn. Its vast, sweeping force instantly washed away the soldiers' fear of the orc warlord and filled them with fighting spirit. His uncle smiled faintly, thinking, the boy really is busy today. It seems I should do something myself, or he will steal every last bit of the commander's thunder. With that he took hold of a long spear. Pure mana wrapped the entire spear in an instant. The next moment he hurled it hard at the orc legion. In a heartbeat it slaughtered a great swath of orcs. The soldiers of Winterfort erupted in waves of astonished cries. Worthy of the commander, a single blow killed hundreds of orcs at the very least, and the sight enraged the orc force completely. Countless war drums began to beat within the Orc Legion. In an instant, they raised the already sky-high spirit of the Orc soldiers by several degrees more. Shouting for the tribe and for freedom, they launched their assault on Winterfort. But the people of Winterfort were not afraid in the slightest.